Okay. Okay. A very good afternoon to everyone, and all those students also who are watching us live on YouTube. And I wish all the students who are going to appear in this year mains a very best of luck. Okay. And in order to help them with some of the issues which somehow students generally struggle with, especially when it comes to contemporary issue, we have conducted this class. Okay. And in this class, I'll be primarily discussing some of the important issues which have been in the news since past 2 years. Okay. I may not be able to discuss every issue, but and I'm not even in a position to say that all the questions from this discussion would come in the paper. But I'm definitely sure about one thing, that in one or the other way, today's discussion is going to definitely help you in your coming mains. Okay. A question may come directly or it may come indirectly, or it may not come altogether, but the content may be used in some other context as well. Okay. So before I start discussion on the contemporary issues, I would like to just have a sound check, or what we call as mic check. Please let me know, the students who are watching us live on YouTube, am I audible and visible to you guys? And I think there will be a lag of 1 or 2 second odd, so I'll wait till then. Am I guys audible to you? Perfectly. Okay, nice. Okay. Fine. So let us start our discussion. Few topics which we'll be discussing today. One would be essential religious practice. Okay. It has been discussed in crash course series as well, but just to have quick revision, and for those students who did not watch it and who were not part of this crash course, for them we'll be having the same lecture once again on the same topic. And other than essential religious practices, some of the important topics which I'll be definitely talking about today are: one is essential religious practices. Second topic that I'll definitely touch today is labor codes. Generally, students struggle with work and economy unit, but in the last 2 years, if you see, UPSC has been asking question from that unit, especially those kind of questions which are very much related to what is ongoing in reality. It is not about theory that they are asking. They are not asking formal, informal. They are not asking social organization of work in feudalism, capitalism. Long gone are those days. Okay, they are more interested in asking about interstate migrant workers, or they are more interested in asking about informalization of workforce, or they may even ask this year gig economy and how labor code address it. For example, when new education policy was introduced, the first question which they asked, and which was also quite predictable, was how new education policy is going to help bridge inequality. So labor code, how it is going to bridge inequality between the organized and unorganized sector, or the formal and informal sector, can be a very definite question and very straightforward question. Okay. Other than these two topics, what are we going to discuss? Third is the concept of revival of ethnic identities. And especially to address this topic, I'll be discussing a concept which has been in news: retribalization. Retribalization. What is retribalization is something you will come to know in the course of lecture. Okay. Other than these three, I would also discuss, the issue of caste census and both sides of it. The people who support it and the people who do not support it, and sociological perspective is definitely uh, not to say it need not be made explicit. It is implied that in the discussion we will have sociological perspective. Okay. Fifth thing that we will discuss is reservation issue. Reservation demand among dominant castes. Okay. These two, one of these two questions I believed last year would be coming. Since they did not come that year, I am quite hopeful they would be coming this year in one or the other form. Although last year they asked one question on challenges of census method, but I think this year they may get very specific about caste census now. Okay, because every year UPSC has imprints of the previous year question paper, so you may see some of the question on caste census going by the trend. Okay, let us quickly start with the discussion on the first topic, which is essential religious practices. Okay. Is this visible to you guys, online students who are watching us on YouTube? In case it is not, I'll anyhow repeat the same. Okay. First, let us have a simple discussion on what is essential religious practice. Okay. See, try to understand that every religion, as you know, according to Durkheim, is set of beliefs and practices only. Okay. Durkheim, this is what he says, that religion can be defined as collective set of beliefs and practices related to sacred, around which we constitute a moral community called church. So that means when you talk of religion, to talk of religious practice is natural thing. Okay. Now the question is, what are different sort of religious practices which are being practiced by different communities? There may be multiple, but some of them are regarded as essential practices in the modern times, and some of them are not regarded as essential in the modern times. The question is, how do we decide what is essential and what is not essential to some religious community? And who decides it? These are the questions that we are going to discuss. And what is the implication of this decision? Okay, so this topic was in news specifically when the hijab controversy happened. Okay, so Karnataka High Court came up with this ruling that wearing hijab is not essential. Okay, although the community members used to believe that it is essential religious practice and it should be protected under Article 25, but Karnataka High Court did not agree with them, and they said it is not essential religious practice and cannot be protected under Article 25. See, remember, when we talk of Article 25, Article 25 is one of the fundamental right which somehow protects religious practices among communities, and this protection is given by the state, given by the constitution only, and state is the guardian of the fundamental rights. Yeah, please. Okay. And so is the Supreme Court. Now the question is whether Supreme Court really believes that it falls under Article 25, it is essential. Okay. Supreme Court is yet to hear on these things, but Karnataka High Court did not believe so. Okay. So when do we call a religious practice essential? किसी भी practice को essential बोलने के लिए ये बहुत जरूरी होता है कि वो practice is mentioned in the sacred text. Okay. So that means, it simply means that Supreme Court is not only going to follow constitution to check the validity, it is also going to follow religious text to check the validity. ये भी important है. Okay. Although in the modern society we do not expect the courts to check the validity of custom through sacred text, but it did so. Okay. So a religious practice is essential when it is mentioned in the doctrines or sacred text of the religion itself, and also it is essential if you take away and it results in the fundamental change in the character of religion, then also it implies that practice is definitely essential. Just by taking it away, if the whole essence of religion is being modified or changed altogether, that simply implies कि भाई practice is essential. Okay. And any practice which does not stand the test of essential religious practice is deemed non-essential and therefore it cannot be protected under Article 25. हमने एक चीज तो यहाँ से समझ ली है कि कुछ प्रैक्टिसेस को ही रिलीजन में essential बोला जाएगा और कुछ को नहीं बोला जाएगा. So what is one thing that we have inferred from this discussion so far is that religion consists of both essential religious practices and non-essential practices. Okay, this is an idea which is the result of modern outlook to religion. This was never the case in the pre-modern society. In pre-modern society, every practice was seen as essential. But in the modern society, you see differentiation of religion, that in the whole body only few things would be seen as essential and others would not be seen as essential. Now, who decides what is not essential? This is decided by judiciary. And judiciary, as we know, is the guardian of rationality. Okay, so the guardian of rationality is deciding on what is not essential to religion, but at the same time keeping what is essential to religion, especially when in our Indian version of secularism, Article 25 becomes a very important facet. Okay, so, but now the question is, why it is essential to define what is essential and what is not essential? ये जरूरी इसलिए भी है बताना कि क्या essential होता है क्या नहीं, क्योंकि otherwise everything can be defined as part of religion only. I mean, your whole routine, okay, the food you eat, the dress you wear, the customs you follow, everything can be seen as part of religion. So therefore, there must be some boundary, na? You can't say that everything that you do is part of your religious belief. There has to be some boundary. And therefore, to have that boundary, this categorization becomes important. Okay, so in the West, although there is a clear-cut separation, there is clear-cut boundary that this is religious, this is not religious, this is sacred, this is not sacred. Okay, there is clear-cut demarcation between religious and secular practice. Okay, but in India, the problem is this kind of demarcation is difficult, and therefore to introduce that demarcation, this test is always done by judiciary. Okay, in India, according to Ambedkar, religion covers every aspect of life from birth to death. Our lifestyle, belief, food, customs and occupations is influenced by religious belief. Therefore, it is very important to have clear demarcation between what is essential and what is not. Okay, otherwise you can do anything in the name of religious practice only. Okay, so just to go into zoom mode so that everyone could see it, let us try to understand what are those practices which have been deemed non-essential in the past by judiciary and legislation. Tandav dance of Marg faith, Anand Marg faith, has been deemed not essential. Okay, triple talaq has been deemed non-essential. Ban on the entry of women has also been deemed non-essential. That means women are free to enter into temple, okay, at any occasion. Mosque has been regarded as not essential part of Islam. That means a Muslim does not have to have a mosque to pray. He can offer the prayers outside of mosque as well. Okay. Animal sacrifice is not essential to Hindus. Okay. Now, remember, something not essential and illegal, both are different things. So it may be not essential, but it is not illegal. It is just not essential. It need not be followed essentially by every Hindu. Okay. Then Santhara or Salle Khana is also not essential to Jains. Okay, but still they practice it, because I told you that legality and essentiality both are two different things. Okay. Capturing and worshipping live cobra during Nag Panchami festival is also not essential. Okay, although people do it. Okay, but it is not essential. They do it as part of custom, and that customs have to be protected by Article 25. Okay. Now, But some of the customs which are protected under Article 25 may turn out to be violative of individual rights. And the idea of state or judiciary is to protect individual rights. It should not be the case that in the name of collective consciousness or in the name of customs, individual right is being ignored. Okay, fine. So here individual right was not ignored. Okay, in the case of mosque, individual right was not ignored. Okay, but when it comes to ban on entry of women in Sabrimala, individual rights are ignored. That is why Supreme Court specifically comes here. In the case of triple talaq, individual rights are definitely violated in the name of customs. In the name of animal sacrifice, although it should not be the case, but in the case of hijab, individual right was definitely violated. Okay, so therefore essentiality and legality are two different things. Let us not confuse those things with each other. Okay, now because see, think of it like this, that individual like woman, okay, she as an individual, okay, has a right to have free mobility, okay, and express herself freely, okay, but since she is masked under hijab, she was not able to express herself freely, and because of such kind of practices also, you would see many of those women do not get employment. Many of them are not even क्या कहते हैं, are able to gel up with the larger community. They feel excluded. Okay, somehow this is curbing their individual right of expression. Okay, so the right of expression is more important than this custom. Okay, right to express oneself freely. Okay, although women, you would see, were coming out in support of this practice. Okay, but that's a different issue. That's a different issue altogether. It is as equivalent to saying that sati were also supported by many women, but okay, but that does not matter. What matters is individual right, dignity of individual. Okay, so now the question is, how do we analyze essential religious practice and Indian secularism? If few practices are regarded as not essential by the state, does it mean that our secularism is being tampered with, or does it mean that the philosophy of secularism is being tampered with because state is intervening in religious matter? Should it be seen as intervention in religious matter? ये important question है. Okay, see, our Indian secularism is all about equal respect for all religions, but this does not mean that Indian state or judiciary cannot disrespect what is not essential. When you say equal respect for all religion, it only implies equal respect for all essential practices. Okay, so this has to be made very clear that equal respect for all religions imply equal respect for all essential practices, and at the same time it also implies equal disrespect for what is not essential. Okay, and equal disrespect for what is not essential. That means both are part of Indian secularism only. Huh?
Like in the case of most non-essential, will we say that we have equal disrespect for most?
नहीं. Equal disrespect का मतलब है anything which is not so important or anything which is violative of individual right, that should be regarded as not essential. Okay. See, sometimes, अब यहाँ पे मैं ऐसा कुछ बोल दूंगा, लाइव चल रहा है, गड़बड़ हो जाएगी, ठीक है. Sometimes when you construct religious sites, okay, or sometimes religious sites are constructed on such pathways, okay, which may seem to be creating obstruction. Okay, so उस context में भी ज़्यादा मत बोलो, ठीक है. So next is Rajiv Bhargav. What does he have to say on this? Okay, Rajiv Bhargav says that constitutional political secularism only implies equal respect for all essential religious practice and equal disrespect. ये पूरा idea is given by Rajiv Bhargav only. This is what we regard as constitutional political secularism. ओके ये उसका आइडिया है, वन कॉन्सेप्ट दैट ही हैज गिवन, constitutional political secularism. Okay, and when Rajiv Bhargav says that state can equally disrespect what is not essential, that means he is saying that its state is free to legitimately intervene. So it should not be seen as intervention, it should be seen as legitimate intervention. Okay, so constitutional political secularism. Now, equal respect for all the religions imply equal disrespect for all non-essential practices which are violative of individual liberty. Okay. Partha Chatterjee and Ashish Nandi, they say this model, okay, helps the state to legitimately intervene without being seen as discriminatory. Because when you intervene in the name of protecting individual rights, you would not be seen as discriminatory. Rather, you would be seen as protector of discriminated. So this image of being seen as protector of discriminated helps the state to overcome the accusation that it is intervening. Okay. So however, we must be cautious of communal tensions that may result in what we call as party political secularism. Okay. So this is a threat to Indian democracy. Party political secularism. This is not threat. Constitutional political secularism is fine. Legitimate intervention is fine. Equal disrespect for all non-essential is fine. But party political, that means, specifically labeling few things as not essential during the times of election. Okay, to get vote of majority or to get consolidated vote. That is not right. Okay. So party political secularism is something that we should be very cautious of, but constitutional political secularism is something that we should be going ahead with, okay, without any issue. Now, if you introduce Durkheim here, what he would have said? Okay, Durkheim would have said that now today, in the modern world, we see differentiation of sacred. Iska matlab, if you remember the concept of religion defined by Durkheim, he says religion is set of beliefs and practices, anything related to sacred, around which we constitute moral community. But today we are seeing not everything which is regarded as collective belief is regarded as essential. Only few things are regarded as essential, that means sacred. Only few things, not everything. So sacred has been differentiated into essential sacred and non-essential sacred. Okay, fine. So इसी को हम बोलते हैं differentiation of sacred. Fine. And it also means that religion is not going away. It is there only. It is not being thrown away or being rejected by the modern outlook of rationality. Rather, the rational outlook is helping us to understand what are the practices in religion that may be violative of individual rights, because in modern society, individualism is the main spirit, not the collectivism. So individualism has to be protected, but not at the cost of collectivism. Therefore, essential भी रखा है और individual rights को भी रख लिया है, दोनों को रख लिया है. ठीक है. If you introduce Weber here, so you clearly see a secularization process. As we move on, as we get modernized, as we go further in evolution cycle, we understand that over a period of 100 or 200 years, many practices have been deemed non-essential from religion. And when you deem something non-essential, that means you are left with very few things which are essential. And that means religion has been, as a body, religion has been deprived of many customs which were at one point of time integrated part of this whole. Okay. And therefore you now see secularization, that means decline of religious belief or what we regard as sacred or essential, okay, to that religion. That has been declining in the, that मतलब trend वो चल रहा है उस तरफ से. Okay. So all in all, essential religious practices may be seen as instrument of socio-religious reform instead of intervention in religion per se.
Rationalization of previously traditional.
It implies one and the same thing. दोनों के लिए same ही term use किया जाता है. ठीक है. Okay, so I guess ERP is fine. ये आपको इतना ध्यान रहेगा कैसे कैसे आप अप्लाई कर सकते हो. Now if you get a question on Durkheim on religion also, even if you do not get question on ERP, But when you talk of Durkheim or religion, you may introduce concept of ERP there, essential religious practice. Okay, not everything is sacred. Few things are decided as sacred and rest is decided profane, not by collectivity but by the modern institutions. Okay, fine. Shall we go ahead, online students? In case you have any sort of doubt, you may drop in your queries in the YouTube comment box only. Okay. Okay, fine. Now next, let us understand labor law codes. Okay. Labor law codes, what are these labor law codes and why they have been in the news? See, for many years since independence, India did not have any labor law, so to say, effective laws to protect the rights of unorganized sector workers. Okay. And we know very well that unorganized sector constitutes 90% of the workforce of Indian society. Okay, Indian economy. That means so far the laws were protecting the rights of only 10% workforce. And in the 2019 itself, committees were established to look into safeguarding the rights of these majority of the workers. Okay. And finally, in the year 2020, one of the code which was institutionalized only to secure minimum wage condition for the informal sector workers. So there was a point of time when we had multiple labor laws and those labor laws were very confusing. Okay. But by the year of 2009, Indian state had come to a conclusion that all those 44 labor laws should be summarized into 4 labor codes. Okay. To have a simplification of labor laws, because as long as you do not have simple laws, so long the effectiveness of those laws would be minimal. Okay. So अब क्या किया है, जो डेवलपमेंट्स हुई हैं बेसिकली वो ये है that 44 labor laws, sorry 29 labor laws have been clubbed into 4 labor codes. Okay. 29 लेबर लॉज को 4 लेबर कोड्स में डाल दिया गया है. ठीक है. So there was a point of time when we used to have separate law for separate kind of industrial worker. Like for example, for BD and cigar workers there was separate law. For mine workers there was separate law. For migrants there was separate law. For contract workers there was separate law. So to have a separate law for each and every segment of worker is very cumbersome process, and therefore it was important that we have neat and clean unified code system. Okay. So out of the 4 labor codes which I'll be talking about today, one code which is code on minimum wage was institutionalized in the year 2020 itself. But 3 codes were yet to be implemented. एक कोड, चारों में से एक कोड इंप्लीमेंट हो गया था 2020 में, बट 3 कोड अभी भी इंप्लीमेंट होने बाकी थे. And this year in July, it was believed that those 3 pending codes would be implemented. However, they could not, because still the Indian state is looking into the nitty-gritties of those codes, and I'll tell you why they are going into nitty-gritties as well. Okay, but somehow the question is very important this year. Okay. Let us look into the 4 labor codes which protect the rights of unorganized sector workers. 44 ही था, ठीक है. चलो हाँ, फिर वो कंफ्यूजन हुआ होगा मेरे को. 44. चलो, let us see what is the objective of the labor codes. So labor codes का जो purpose है, that is mainly about universalization of minimum wage and timely payment of wages. Universalization of minimum wage and timely payment of wages. Second is formalization of informal, as I told you that informal sector worker constitute 90% of workforce, and it is imperative on the part of Indian state to formalize them, okay, to protect them, to ensure minimum wage to them, and to ensure timely payment, or to give them collective bargaining wale rights as well, okay. That forms part of what we call as formalization of informal, okay. Let us look into each and every code one by one. First code is Code on Wages 2019. What does this code tell us? It says that there should be minimum wage guaranteed to the workers, whether it is organized sector worker or unorganized sector. It is applicable to both. Applicable to both organized and unorganized. In fact, all the labor codes are applicable to both organized and unorganized, okay. So first is guaranteed minimum wage and timely payment. Second is equal remuneration to male and female workers, okay. And third, which is very important, since you know that labor is concurrent subject, and being a concurrent subject, it is important that state takes into cognizance different states as well. Indian state, central government takes into cognizance state governments as well, and therefore to have state government on board with the center has clearly told the states that there has to be a floor wage. That means beyond or below this wage you cannot be giving wage to the workers. So floor wage means minimum wage that should be given. Below this you cannot be giving wage to the workers, okay. So floor wage is there to remove regional disparity in minimum wages, because every state has different sort of minimum wage, and to have क्या कहते हैं, a whole soul uniformization of minimum wage, floor wage has been institutionalized by the code of wage 2019, okay. So let us understand the second code. What is the second code all about? The first code is all about minimum wage and timely payment, okay. The second code is about safety and working condition in the occupational sphere. तो पहले तो आपको मिनिमम वेज मिल जाए, टाइम पे पैसे मिल जाए, और दूसरा जो भी आप काम कर रहे हो वो सेफ कंडीशंस में कर रहे हो, ठीक है, हैजार्डस कंडीशन ना हो वो भी इंश्योर किया जाए, ठीक है, सिर्फ पैसा ही कमाना नहीं है, हेल्थ भी इंपॉर्टेंट होती है, ठीक है. सो दिस कोड इज मेनली कंसर्न्ड विद माइंस, प्लांटेशंस, मोटर ट्रांसपोर्ट सेक्टर, बीड़ी एंड सिगार, contract and migrant workers, because these are those people whose working conditions and safety at workplace is minimal, okay, fine. Migrant workers ka you understand why, since they are very vulnerable to economic cycles, and therefore it becomes difficult for them to get settled and to have a safe working condition at one place, okay. Second thing which this code is concerned with is to make Atmanirbhar workers. What used to happen was that initially migrant workers, when they used to come to Delhi or Mumbai, they had to contact contractors. So they were labor contractors, जिसको हम बोलते हैं ठेकेदार, okay. So contractors used to register them, the migrant workers. The contractors used to register the migrant workers on the portal, okay. But what would now happen? Now workers are independently registering themselves on the portal without any contractor. So intermediary class is gone, okay, or it is being attacked here, because once you are dependent on contractor for registration of your working condition and payment on all those things, okay, you become more vulnerable to जिसे कहते हैं retrenchment, okay. That means you are at the will of contractor, since you already do not enjoy any kind of working agreement, okay. So you become vulnerable to the will of contractor. So now with the coming of a portal, which I'll be discussing in a few time with you, in few seconds with you, e-Shram portal. In this portal, the workers can, in Atmanirbhar way or autonomous way, register themselves, okay. Third is the interstate migrant workers. For them, a mandatory helpline facility has been institutionalized. So we know that interstate migrant workers are the biggest victim of any sort of economic cycle, okay. And to help them feel integrated with the state, a mandatory helpline facility has been institutionalized, okay. Fourth, appointment letters are made compulsory. Without appointment letters, you do not feel integral part of the organization that you are working for, and you are equally vulnerable to the whims and fancies of the person who may have employed you, specifically contractor. Okay, so appointment letter has also been made compulsory now. Next, annual health checkup has been made compulsory. And who will conduct annual health checkup? The organizations which are recruiting laborers, they will conduct annual health checkup. Okay. अब इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि कुछ तो खर्चा एम्प्लॉयर का भी यहाँ पे बढ़ रहा है. The biggest problem for the Indian state or for any government is to ensure that they are able to cater every party equally. So when it comes to labor code, na, issue is not just of laborers, issue is also of employers. Would employers be comfortable with shelling out so much of expenditure for the annual health checkup of the workers? Because every organization is working for profit interest. Okay, so ये जो तीनों का जो साइकिल है, स्टेट का, एम्प्लॉयर का और लेबरर्स का, ये इसको ट्राइपोटाइट रिलेशन जो बोलते हैं, इसका एक क्या कहते हैं, वेल बैलेंस होना बड़ा जरूरी होता है. ओके, एंड अदर देन, ओके, सो 2 codes have been discussed. आई गेस इसमें भी कोई डाउट नहीं होगा आपको. तो फर्स्ट कोड वाज ऑल अबाउट टाइमली पेमेंट एंड मिनिमम वेज. सेकंड कोड इज ऑल अबाउट वर्किंग कंडीशंस एट द वर्क प्लेस. फाइन. थर्ड कोड इज अबाउट इंडस्ट्रियल रिलेशंस. क्या होता है कि आपको टाइम पे पेमेंट मिल रही है, ठीक है, आपका मिनिमम वेज भी सेट है, ठीक है, और फिर जहां काम कर रहे हैं वहां सब कुछ बढ़िया है, एनुअल हेल्थ चेकअप होता है, एसी भी है, सब अच्छा चल रहा है, ठीक है, अग्रीमेंट लेटर भी है, सब बढ़िया है. लेकिन other than these things, what is also important is that if you face any sort of issue with the boss or the employer, or if workers like you are facing similar issue with the employer, does the organization give enough liberty to the workers to mobilize against them? Is there any separate cell or grievance redressal mechanism for the grievances of workers? Okay, so इसके लिए सेपरेट कोड है जिसको हम बोलते हैं कोड ऑन इंडस्ट्रियल रिलेशंस. ओके, हाउ रिलेशंस आर मैनेज्ड इन द इंडस्ट्री. सो अ स्कीम हैज बीन इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज्ड, अटल बीमित व्यक्ति कल्याण योजना. ओके, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट अलाउंस इज देयर फॉर ऑर्गेनाइज्ड वर्कर्स अंडर ESI स्कीम. ओके, इंश्योरेंस की स्कीम है ये. बेसिकली क्या है कि सपोज you were given timely payment and you had good working conditions also, but one day बॉस का मूड कर गया कि तुमको लात मार दी, ठीक है, कि तुम निकलो यहाँ से क्योंकि लॉकडाउन आ गया है, तुम निकलो पहले, ठीक है. तो अब क्या होएगा, अब ये लॉकडाउन के बाद नाउ दैट पर्सन इज अनएम्प्लॉयड. नाउ इज ही गिवन अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट अलाउंस? नो, he was not given. But this code ensures that every person who is being thrown out of the organization, okay, is being given unemployment allowance, especially for the organized sector. This is especially for the organized sector worker. Okay, unorganized have to first get themselves registered in the portal. Only then these conditions apply to them. Okay. On retrenchment, 15 days wages for reskilling should also be given. So if someone has been retrenched mainly because the skill set that this person possesses is not matching with the requirement of organization anymore, so a 15 days wage should be given for reskilling so that he could skill himself up and then come back again. He should not be just thrown out just because his skills are defunct now or not so functional to the organization. Okay, fine. So ये तो हो गया on the occasion of unemployment or what we call as security of the work. Okay, but when it comes to dispute has to be resolved in a year according to this code. So there were many cases. You would see that many organizations are having unresolved disputes going on for many years altogether. Okay, and to ensure that workers disputes are addressed on time, 1 year क्या कहते हैं, 1 year directive has been given by this code. Okay, other than this, a trade union. Now the question is how this code recognizes trade union. There is one set of people who believe that these codes have not been very welcoming of the idea of trade unions. They are somehow breaching the collective bargaining rights that one union must have. Okay, but that is another set of perspective which we definitely call as conflict perspective. But जो integrationist perspective है, क्योंकि we are reading about how unorganized sector can be integrated into the mainstream. Okay, how they can feel part of the larger collective nation. Okay, so for keeping that in perspective, trade unions having 51% votes should be recognized. Only they should be recognized as sole negotiating unions. Only trade unions having 50% votes should be recognized as sole negotiating union. That means any trade union possessing less than 50% would not be deemed as trade union altogether. Okay. That means, it is incumbent on the part of trade union to have maximum registration of workers with them so that it could be called as trade union. Otherwise, it is just, gupshup or baatcheet. That is not trade union. For it to be recognized as union, 51% का वहां पे होना चाहिए वर्कर्स का स्ट्रेंथ. ठीक है. फ्लोर वेज का आइडिया इज समथिंग दैट वी हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड टू रिमूव रीजनल डिस्पैरिटी. वो इधर भी आता है ये. ओके, फाइन. बट नाउ द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट कोड फॉर आवर सिलेबस, okay, and for UPSC is this one, and I'll tell you why this is very important other than these three, because those three are very क्या कहें उसको, quite straightforward and very standardized, but this one has been in the news for many years. Okay, code on social security, it's all about pension, insurance, provident fund, these things, okay, that you are more concerned about in the case of क्या कहते हैं, इकोनॉमिक बस्ट और रिसेशनरी साइकिल और एनी नेचुरल एपिडेमिक like pandemic. Okay, so during pandemic people were not concerned about just some of the grievances that they might have had when they were working. They were equally concerned with pension or provident fund or some kind of security that they should be getting as part of as part of a member of the organization. Okay, and for facilitating social security, e-Shram portal has been envisaged. Okay, this portal will register and identify all the workers only for universalization of all the social security schemes. So social security schemes cannot be implemented if we do not know who all are the workers in the unorganized sector worksphere. Okay, and therefore e-Shram portal is one of the initiative to identify the beneficiary so that social security schemes could be doled out effectively. Okay, second is right of workers for insurance, pension, gratuity, maternity benefit. ये सब इसमें आता है. Social security, maternity benefit भी would falling under this code. Okay, third is opportunity to join ESIC for platform and gig worker. Now this is very important. Okay.
This maternity benefit will be in conflict to the other schools that are run by the government for like प्रधानमंत्री मातृवंदना योजना.
नहीं क्यों?
तो ये वाला
maternity benefit is different thing ना, कि भाई on the occasion of
paid leave जो है,
हाँ पेड लीव जिसे कहते हैं. यस, ठीक है, कि अगर आप प्रेग्नेंट हो या फिर यू आर एक्सपेक्टिंग, तो फॉर दैट टाइम एटलीस्ट यू वुड हैव टू लीव द वर्क. ओके, so that should be paid one, maternity benefit. Okay, so now what is more important in this code is that this is the only code that India has to cater to the rights of gig workers. Now the question is who are gig workers. इसके लिए मैंने एक अलग आर्टिकल बनाया है जो मैं आपको दिखाऊंगा. ठीक है, this is the only code for gig workers. Question is, who are gig workers? Are they also unorganized sector workers just like unorganized sector workers, or are they any different from the unorganized sector workers? ये सब होता क्या है, ये सब क्या बकवास है. ठीक है, तो इसको हम समझेंगे आज. पहले तो ये समझना जरूरी होता है. ठीक है, not all the unorganized sector workers are gig workers, but gig workers are definitely unorganized sector workers. ठीक है, okay, तो this code is giving an opportunity to gig workers, मतलब Uber drivers मान लो अभी के लिए, बेस्ट एग्जांपल अभी वही चल रहा है आजकल. ठीक है, opportunity to the Uber drivers, okay, to join ESIC इंश्योरेंस के लिए होता है बेसिकली. ठीक है, next is employees engaged on fixed term to get the same social security benefit as permanent employees. This is also very nice agreement. Okay, मतलब एक तरीके से क्लॉज बहुत अच्छा है ये. फिक्स टर्म का मतलब होता है देयर आर सम एम्प्लॉइज विच आर रिक्रूटेड ad hoc on ad hoc basis that for 2 years you are employed. This को हम बोलते हैं ad hoc workers or ad hoc professors or ad hoc professionals. Okay, and it has been observed that ad hoc professionals and the permanent professionals always have different salary, different working hours and different working conditions altogether. To ensure that there is a streamlined process of working condition and minimum wage, this code clearly lays out the fact that employees on fixed term would now also get the same security benefit as the permanent employees only. There should be no discrimination between them. Okay. Fourth one is an idea which has been envisaged by this code is National Security Board. This is very important. What is National Security Board? National Security Board is a board which is going to be representative of workers from all the segments of economy, including gig workers. So now you would see gig workers not just as the subject of law, but they are also the object or the creator of laws. Okay, they are the ones from whose perspective laws would be implemented. Their decision would also be taken into consideration. Their opinions or views would also be taken into consideration while making laws on gig workers. So National Security Board is going to have representation from gig workers, aggregators and government bodies. Very nice. ये बहुत important point है. ये क्या होता है मैं आपको बताता हूँ. Representation from gig workers एक तो ये है, उसके अंदर दूसरे aggregators हैं and third government bodies. ये aggregators क्या होता है? So aggregators are the owner of platforms. Okay, like for example Uber is aggregator. Okay, Ola is aggregator, Swiggy is aggregator because they have aggregated, ऐसे मान लो, they have aggregated different workers through one platform which is one app. Application के थ्रू उन्होंने कई सारे workers को aggregate कर दिया है एक साथ. And worker is free to switch to any app. There is no legal binding on any one worker to that you have to stick to Uber only as worker of Uber. You can't switch to Ola. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. These are aggregator services बोलते हैं इनको. Okay. So National Security Board will have representation from all the three parties concerned. जिसको बोलते हैं tripartite representation. Okay. Tripartite representation. Now this is important because this is what has been recommended by International Labour Organization as well. ILO भी यही बोलता है कि dispute settle तभी हो सकता है जब तीनों के representatives dispute settle body में exist करते हैं. Otherwise it will always be a one-way decision. Okay, fine. Now if you have tripartite representation, what is it going to achieve sociologically? It is going to achieve strong social cohesion in the workplace between employers, employee and the state itself. And strong cohesion का मतलब क्या हुआ? Solidarity. ठीक है, strong consensus. That means minimum chance of conflict. That also implies that it is one of the reform that Durkheim would have envisaged if he was alive today. Okay, to ensure that there is no anomic division of labor. Okay, or to curb all these sorts of anomy. It is important that we have representative body. This is also one of the suggestions that Durkheim has given. Okay, and that is on the same lines. Okay, fine. तो ये हो गया आपका बेसिक्स ऑफ लेबर कोड. कोई इशू यहां तक बिफोर वी प्रोसीड? प्लेटफॉर्म के बहुत सारे हैं, इंडिया में है. ऑल इंडिया ट्रेड यूनियन ऑफ ऊबर करके एसोसिएशन बोला जाता है उसको. ठीक है, बट दैट इज नॉट रिकॉग्नाइज्ड बाय द गवर्नमेंट. रिकॉग्निशन के लिए 51% का कुछ वो क्लॉज है. हाँ हो सकते हैं, लेकिन वही है ना कि एक जिसे कहते हैं प्रॉपर रिकॉग्निशन एक रेगुलेटेड फॉर्म में वो है नहीं, वो अभी भी एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती है. नहीं, उस पर तो खुद ही मैं भी उसी पे काम कर रहा हूँ. ऊबर पे ही तो मेरा वो है पूरा प्रोजेक्ट. ठीक है, उस पर सच कोई अभी ऐसी बॉडी आई नहीं जो कि इतनी जिसे कहते हैं स्ट्रांग हो या वोकल हो, रीजन ये है कि उबर इज मल्टीलैटरल, क्या ट्रांसनेशनल कॉर्पोरेशन. ओके, सो सिंस इट इज ट्रांसनेशनल कॉर्पोरेशन, what is Uber going to implement in India may have repercussions on what they may have to implement outside as well. तो Uber तो अपनी पॉलिसी यूनिफॉर्म रखना चाहेगा, ऐसा नहीं कि कैलिफोर्निया सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कुछ कहा है तो फिर अब वो यूरोपियन सुप्रीम कोर्ट में अब कुछ अलग है और इंडियन में कुछ अलग है, तो अलग अलग कर नहीं पाएगा वो, उसको एक पॉलिसी चाहिए. और अपनी पॉलिसी के हिसाब से आई टेल यू कि उसके साथ इशू क्या है. Uber does not regard, for that matter, any platform economy platformers or aggregators do not regard these people as workers. These are regarded as independent contractors. ठीक है, वो मैं आपको बताऊंगा अभी यहाँ पे क्या होता है. कोई डाउट यहाँ पे, इससे पहले हम आगे बढ़े. आर्टिस्ट टैलेंट हब, क्रिस्टल क्लियर सर, ओके. रूपल गौतम, मार्क्स यू. कनिष्क कुमार सर, तांडव डांस एग्जाम्पल में ईआरपी नॉन एसेंशियल कैसे अप्लाई हो रहा है? ट्रिपल तलाक सबरीमाला समझ आता है एज अगेंस्ट. हाँ, बात यही है कि देखो, इसेंशियलिटी के लिए बड़ा जानना जरूरी है कि कुछ चीजें ऐसी होती हैं जो इम्पोज्ड होती हैं, कुछ चीजें होती हैं जो वॉलंटरली की जा रही हैं. ओके, देयर आर सम प्रैक्टिसेस व्हिच आर डन voluntarily by members and there are some practices which are imposed. The question is how do we decide imposed है कि नहीं? यही सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है जो आप पूछ रहे हो ना. ट्रिपल तलाक इम्पोज्ड है, कुछ लोग बोलेंगे नहीं उनकी खुद की मर्जी थी. तांडव डांस बोलेंगे उनकी मर्जी है, कोई इम्पोज्ड नहीं है. आई मीन ये इम्पोजिशन जैसे इट्स लाइक यू नो टॉकिंग अबाउट mothers in our house, whether they are doing housework as sort of coercive activity or it is something which they are doing voluntarily. ये डिसाइड करना बड़ा मुश्किल है, तो इन चीजों पे तो नहीं जाते हैं, ज्यादा अच्छा रहेगा. ठीक है. पीयूष सर, वी लव यू योर फैन. अच्छा. विशाल, विच चैप्टर? अरे चैप्टर तो कौन सा है, कोई चैप्टर नहीं यहाँ पे यार विशाल. ठीक है, ये वाला चैप्टर कह रहे हो आप, वर्क एंड इकोनॉमी होएगा विशाल, सबके लिए है. Whether you are organized sector worker or unorganized sector worker, e-shram portal is for both. सेक्शन 295A वाले को वो नहीं वो नहीं आएगा, वो रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिस नहीं है ना. नहीं वो तो ये वाला क्वेश्चन तो पूरा लीगल क्वेश्चन है जो तुम पूछ रहे हो, सोशियोलॉजिकल नहीं है, ये तो लीगल क्वेश्चन हुआ पूरा. ठीक है. हाँ, अभी हुई नहीं है क्योंकि अभी इंप्लीमेंट ही नहीं हुआ है. अभी तो ये बोर्ड ही ढंग से इंप्लीमेंट नहीं हुआ. ये तो ऐसा मान के चलो कि बात चल रही है कि इसका होना है. इंप्लीमेंट एक ही कोड हुआ है अभी तक, मिनिमम वेज वाला. ओके, सो ये चीज है. बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं, बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं. ठीक है. सो अब आते हैं गिग वर्कर्स पे. हु आर गिग वर्कर्स? हाँ, आई विल अपलोड द सेम डॉक्यूमेंट ऑल्सो. ठीक है. हु आर गिग वर्कर्स, ये जानना इंपॉर्टेंट है. सी, एनीबडी हु पार्टिसिपेट इन इनकम अर्निंग एक्टिविटीज outside the traditional long-term employer and employee relationships would be regarded as gig workers. जो भी आदमी अपनी इनकम कमाता है outside of the traditional long-term employee relationship के बाहर रहकर जो भी आदमी कमा रहा है कुछ भी, वो गिग वर्कर है. ठीक है. इसका मतलब अगर आप लॉन्ग टर्म काम नहीं कर रहे हो, यू आर डूइंग पीस रेट वर्क, जिसे कहते हैं पीस वर्क, एक एक घंटे की नौकरियां हैं आपकी अलग अलग जगहों पे. ठीक है. 10 दिन में यू आर एंगेज इन 5 डिफरेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एंड इन ईच ऑर्गेनाइजेशन यू आर डूइंग योर वर्क फॉर 1 आवर. एक सेट है आपका, तो देयर इज नो लॉन्ग टर्म आइडिया. ओके. एंड देयरफॉर यू आर आउट ऑफ द एम्प्लॉयर-एम्प्लॉय साइकिल एज वेल बिकॉज देयर इज नो वन एम्प्लॉयर. Okay, and you are not even employee. For you to be called as employee, you have to be found only in one organization, but you are found in 5 organizations at the same day. So this automatically makes you gig worker. Okay. So if, for example, if a teacher is teaching in 5 different institutions, okay, and if he is not bound by any one institution, that means teacher is also gig worker. If the driver is working in 3 different companies, Uber, Ola, and other companies also at the same time, okay, without being obliged to any specific organization, he is also gig worker. Okay, same is the case with any professional, whether he is software coder, okay, or graphic designer, or image makers. Okay, these are those people who would be working for different clients, okay, at different points of time. Freelancers आप मान लो, freelancers. Okay, fine. Now the question is, what is the reason for growth of gig economy? ये gig economy कब से बढ़ने लगी है और क्या हुआ इकोनॉमी में हमारे ऐसा कि गिग वर्कर्स निकल रहे हैं अब मॉडर्न 20th सेंचुरी में, 21st सेंचुरी में? ओके, पहले हमें समझना पड़ेगा कि जो गिग इकोनॉमी है बेसिकली दैट इज रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ reflective of post-Fordist era. पोस्ट-फोर्डिज्म, ठीक है, एक एरा है पोस्ट-फोर्डिज्म का, उसी का रिफ्लेक्शन है ये गिग इकोनॉमी. ये एरा बेसिकली किस चीज को लेकर है? ऐसा मान के चलो आप कि जो इनिशियल हमारा सिस्टम था इकोनॉमी का, ओके, दैट वाज अबाउट मास प्रोडक्शन. ओके, आवर इकोनॉमी इनिशियली वाज resting on the principles of mass production. That means initially we were concerned with economy of scale, ठीक है, efficiency, ठीक है, assembly line system, वो सब जो शुरुआत में था, because that was the time when we were mainly concentrated in the manufacturing setup, secondary sector जिसे हम कहते हैं, until tertiary sector developed. जिस दिन tertiary sector develop हुआ उसी दिन से you now start विटनेसिंग पोस्ट फोर्डिस्ट एरा. पोस्ट फोर्डिस्ट टर्न बोलते हैं इसको, पोस्ट फोर्डिस्ट टर्न, ठीक है, कि यानी कि सेकेंडरी से टर्शरी पे आप जा रहे हो, फोर्डिज्म से पोस्ट फोर्डिज्म की तरफ जा रहे हो, ठीक है. अब इन द पोस्ट फोर्डिज्म इकोनॉमी ऑफ स्केल डू नॉट मैटर, इकोनॉमी ऑफ स्कोप मैटर्स, ठीक है. दैट मीन्स कि बात इस चीज की नहीं है कि आप कितना ज्यादा प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो, बात यह है कि किस किस टाइप का कितने लोगों के लिए प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो, किस किस टाइप का कितने लोगों के लिए, ठीक है. तो अब व्हाई दिस इज हैपनिंग, इसको मैं समझाने के लिए आपको बता रहा हूं कुछ 2-3 टर्म्स जो मैंने यहाँ पे मेंशन किए. वन इज तो डेफिनेटली ग्लोबलाइजेशन इज वन ऑफ द रीजन फॉर द राइज ऑफ गिग इकोनॉमी, बिकॉज transnational corporations, as you know, since they are expanding a lot, okay, and many transnational corporations have amassed wealth more than GDP of many nation states, and they could not have done it without having cheap labor. So transnational corporations require cheap labor to run, okay, and cheap laborers are largely found in the developing or the LDCs, okay, and therefore you would see more often than not most of the gig workers are present or are coming from developing countries or the LDCs, because gig work means cheap labor, okay. And this also helps many transnational corporations to reduce their liability towards workers. If they are not being given permanent job, if they are not employees, recognized as employees, that means the transnational corporations are saving a lot on their liabilities which they would have to give to the workers if they were permanently employed. Okay, so globalization is simply nothing but basically a process in which investors are moving to countries that have low labor cost or weak labor laws, ठीक है, and this is actually giving rise to जिसे हम बोलते हैं प्लेटफॉर्माइजेशन ऑफ इकोनॉमी. ओके, इसकी वजह से जहां जहां पे भी आप देखोगे लेबर लॉज वीक हैं, wherever you would see cheap labor available and labor laws weak, you would find gig economy there. It is pattern, ये एक पैटर्न है, ठीक है. And you can't make very strong labor laws as well, because gig economy has provided employment to many people. तो एक फाइन ट्यून बैलेंस रखना भी बड़ा मुश्किल काम है, वहां पे लेबर कोड काम आते हैं हमें, ठीक है। बट एनी हाउ, व्हाट इज द सेकंड रीजन फॉर द ग्रोथ ऑफ गिग इकोनॉमी, और व्हाट वी आल्सो कॉल एज फ्लेक्सिबिलाइजेशन ऑफ वर्क? ओके, second reason is law of capital accumulation, which Marx told us about. Oh, and he says that clearly that in the capitalist system, where profit is the central motive, the capitalist or the owners of the means of production would try to amass maximum profit or maximum surplus value without sharing the same degree of wealth with the workers from whom the wealth is created. Okay, तो इस टेंडेंसी की वजह से many people lose their jobs, because when you are concerned more about your profit and not so concerned about welfare of the workers, this would automatically lead many workers to lose their jobs or eventually be replaced by machines or be eventually de-skilled. Okay, and those de-skilled or replaceable workers, in the language of Marx, form what he called as industrial reserve army. So you would find all the people employed in the gig economy are those who are industrial reserve army labor only. Okay, so they are cheap labor, ready to get a job which may be better than this one. Okay, but somehow they know that since economy has not given or created enough opportunities for them, okay, so therefore they find rescue in the gig economy. Okay, third is rationalization of workplace. That is also one of the reasons for the growth of gig economy. Rationalization of workforce का workplace का मतलब क्या होता है? See, इसको हम कुछ लोग इसको क्या कहते हैं, बोलते हैं फिशरिंग वर्क प्लेसेस, फिशरिंग. ओके, see, fishing workplaces means, you know very well that in the service sector, since service sector is quite different from manufacturing sector, you do not see that service sector would have logistical expenditures like the manufacturing units. Manufacturing units के बड़े बड़े factories हैं, बड़े बड़े वो हैं, centers हैं अलग अलग दिशाओं में, locations में. Okay, but the service sector economy do not run on these offshore unit or these physical units. They largely run on platforms. Okay, that means workplace have gotten fissured. Workplace छोटा हो गया है, ठीक है. अब जब workplace छोटा हो गया तो that means you would not find many people being employed to look into the manufacturing unit, which at one point they were. Okay, but with the rise of service economy, now you see more and more people working from home either, or they are working in service sector without any agreement, since they are not working in the workplace itself anymore. Okay, so rationalization of workplace simply implies that work is getting जिसे कहते हैं आप calculable, and the profit is also already calculated, that how much we need to scale up to get more and more profit, and how many workers do we need to ensure that join our platform to ensure the minimum amount of profit that we get. So since these calculations have gone into the making of gig economy, since it is running on numbers only, how much of wage you will get for this much of trip. Okay, so this is actually creating a condition for many people to join this, because they can easily compute their wage. ऐसे मान के चलो, if I am worker and if I know how much I can make in one day, okay, and everything is told to me by the app, okay, that this much of money I can make for as many hours as I work. So this creates certain condition of predictability in my work. Okay, so this is also, such kind of tendency is also giving rise to more and more precaritization बोल लो इसको आप, या flexibilization of work or rationalization of work. ठीक है. Fourth is technology. See, which is also one of the component of the rationalization of workplace only. Since the work is technology driven, okay, तो इसका मतलब कि I can easily make money with predefined calculations. I know that I have app. I know that how much money did I make last month by having these many rides. Okay. So this technology is helping me to have full plan in the future, that I can make this much of money if I in every month I am making this much of trips. Okay. So this control which they feel they have is helping the aggregators to get more and more such workers. Okay, there is no condition of liability or legality, there is no foundation. At the same time, if I'm not able to find ride in Uber, I can switch to Ola. So you would see many ride hailing companies have workers who have both the devices installed in their cab. Okay, so this somehow gives them empowerment. They feel that अगर ओला में नहीं तो उबर में मिल जाएगा या कहीं और मिल जाएगा, ठीक है. So this tendency is also giving rise to gig economy more and more, flexibilization of workplace. Okay, fine. अब डिबेट क्या है एक्चुअली? डिबेट ये है कि इंपॉर्टेंट क्या है, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी या फिर सिक्योरिटी? डिबेट सारा इसी चीज का है. Is it flexibility which matters, or is it the social security which matters? And therefore you would find many Uber workers not asking for the status of employee, because once they get the status of employee, they would not be able to feel the same freedom which they used to have. They could switch to they could switch to another app at any point of time they liked. But इसी यही चीज है कि जब आप उनसे पूछो तो they don't ask for these things. Okay, but some section of the platform workers definitely are, especially in the wake of pandemic, many people were concerned of security more than flexibility. जब तक pandemic नहीं आया तब तक they were happy with flexibility. जैसे pandemic आ गया, now they are concerned with security. Fine. चलो अब गिग वर्कर्स में अब हम बात करते हैं व्हाट आर द एडवांटेजेस ऑफ गिग इकोनॉमी. ओके, एंड व्हाट आर द टाइप्स ऑफ गिग वर्क, दैट इज आल्सो समथिंग दैट वी विल अंडरस्टैंड. ओके, गिग वर्क इज आल्सो नॉट होमोजीनियस, और गिग वर्कर इज नॉट अ होमोजीनियस वर्किंग क्लास. It is also decomposed or it is also differentiated into different sorts of working class altogether. Okay, but पहले हम देखते हैं what are the advantages of gig economy. Okay, see, first is flexibilization of work hours. सही बात है, आपके ऊपर है 2 घंटे काम करो, 3 घंटे 4 घंटे, कोई बाउंडेशन नहीं. 9 to 5 वाला कुछ भी नहीं है. ओके, देयर इज नो बारकोड स्कैनर कि आप आए थे कि नहीं, छुट्टी, ये सब कुछ नहीं. आपकी मर्जी, जब आपको करना है काम तब करो, जितने पैसे कमाने उतने कमाओ. फ्लेक्सिबिलाइजेशन, तो ये एडवांटेज है. ओके, सो दिस इज वन एडवांटेज, फ्लेक्सिबिलाइजेशन ऑफ वर्क आवर्स रादर देन वर्किंग फुल टाइम फॉर एम्प्लॉयर. Fine. Second is autonomy to workers. When they are flexible with their working hours, that means they are autonomous. Okay, so workers enjoy autonomy, including working for another employer. इतनी autonomy है कि एक ही टाइम पे वो 2-3 लोगों के लिए काम कर सकते हैं. ओके, और किसी को कोई इशू नहीं होएगा इस चीज से. फाइन. थर्ड, गिग इकोनॉमी हैज क्रिएटेड न्यू मार्केट एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट. न्यू मार्केट होएगा, ये एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज भी दी है. दिस इज ऑल्सो वन एडवांटेज. ओके, फोर्थ, क्रिएशन ऑफ ऑन डिमांड एक्सेस टू गुड एंड सर्विसेज, ईजिंग द लाइव्स ऑफ मिलियंस ऑफ कंज्यूमर्स. ये कंज्यूमर के नजर से हो गया. That with coming of platform economy, you have on demand access to good and services. अगर आपके घर पे पानी नहीं आ रहा या एसी खराब हो गया, फटाफट से आपने क्या किया, अर्बन क्लैप ओपन किया और अपॉइंटमेंट फिक्स करी, ऊपर कोड लगाया और भैया को बुला लिया, वो आ गए, अपना ठीक कर गए, कोई झंझट नहीं, कुछ नहीं. ओके, तो यानी ऑन डिमांड एक्सेस टू गुड एंड सर्विसेज, आपकी लाइफ आसान हो गई, ईजिंग द लाइव्स ऑफ मिलियंस ऑफ कंज्यूमर्स. राइड नहीं मिल रही, ऊबर आ गया, ठीक है, ऑटो वालों का टेंशन खत्म, ठीक है, जाना है कि नहीं जाना है. फोर्थ इज इंप्रूव्ड इनकम्स. फिफ्थ, विच इज ऑल्सो वन एडवांटेज, दैट many people generally find that they are able to make more money than they would make or they would ever be able to make in a private company or in a public sector job. Okay, that is why they believe that we are happy with where we are. Improved incomes है हमारी, we are able to make 2,000 3,000 in one day, ठीक है, और कभी कभी we are able to make it in one trip also, जब ट्रिप इतनी लंबी हो, ठीक है. तो सिक्योरिटी भली ना हो बट इंप्रूवमेंट जरूर है इनकम में, ठीक है. सो दैट इज ऑल्सो वन एडवांटेज. देन एग्रीगेटर प्लेटफॉर्म्स हेल्प इन प्राइस ट्रांसपेरेंसी ऑल्सो. सो दे फील दैट everything is transparent. Tracking work quality and creating motivating force to work. ठीक है, आप देखोगे जो Uber है or any sort of company which is involved in this business, you would find that they always try to present the workers as independent bosses, कि आप अपने काम के मालिक हो खुद, ठीक है. तो इसको ये जो होता है ना, इसे कहते हैं कि somehow when you are made to feel that you are autonomous and you are boss of your own work, boss of your own timings, okay. So this also sometimes make you feel more integrated with the work that you're doing. You don't want, because you know that you would not find that kind of sentiment in working for other organizations, okay. और बेसिकली जिसे हम कहते हैं डिलीवरी एग्जीक्यूटिव्स बोलना, ये एग्जीक्यूटिव की फीलिंग उन्हें आती है, दैट वी गेट दिस फीलिंग एग्जीक्यूटिव, ओके. और इंडिपेंडेंट कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स, ओके. So these are the things which make them or keep them motivated, okay. But this also creates what is regarded as hope labor. इसको hope labor कहते हैं, ठीक है. That you are working in the hope that you are autonomous and everything is transparent and you will make a lot more money in the coming times. You don't have any security, you are just living on hope. इसको होप लेबर कहते हैं, ओके. जिसको हम पढ़ेंगे डिसएडवांटेज में आगे जाकर, फाइन, ओके. सो दीज फैक्टर्स फेवर विमेन्स पार्टिसिपेशन आल्सो इन द गिग, सिंस यू गेट फ्लेक्सिबलाइजेशन ऑफ वर्क आवर्स, यानी कि घर पे अपना काम वाम करके जो भी अगर आपका काम है उसके बाद आप अपना गिग इकोनॉमी में पैरेलली you can do, or think of people who are YouTubers are also, many housewives or many mothers you would see they have made their own channels how to make this food, okay. अच्छा खाना कैसे बनाते हैं, जो भी है, कुकिंग का एक चैनल बना लिया अपना, तो वो अपना घर पे खाना बना रही है, साथ में बेटे को लगा दिया रिकॉर्ड कर ले, ठीक है. मेरा तो कोई एक्स्ट्रा काम है नहीं, इसी का पैसा मिल जाएगा अलग, ठीक है. तो ये फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी जो मिल रही है वुमेन को, दिस हैज एक्चुअली led to feminization of gig economy, okay. So these factors favor women's participation in gig, feminization of gig. Structural barriers like access to education, जो कभी एक टाइम पे होते थे कि हम काम नहीं कर पा रहे क्योंकि पढ़े लिखे नहीं है, so structural barriers like access to education or lack of skilling have hindered participation of the two demographic groups in the country's labor force, but not anymore with the coming of gig economy, ठीक है, फाइन. क्योंकि गाड़ी चलाने के लिए, खाना बनाने के लिए यू डोंट नीड एजुकेशन बट स्टिल यू गेट मोर मनी, ठीक है. और पहले उनको जॉब इसलिए नहीं मिलती थी क्योंकि एजुकेटेड नहीं थे, ठीक है. नाउ लेट अस सी व्हाट आर द टाइप्स ऑफ गिग वर्क. क्या क्या गिग वर्क के टाइप्स होते हैं ताकि आपको क्लैरिटी रहे इसके अंदर, ठीक है. और जब आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट टाइप्स ऑफ गिग वर्क, दैट मीन्स आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट डिफरेंशिएशन ऑफ वर्किंग क्लास. ये एक टर्म मैं यूज कर रहा हूं यहां पर. See, Karl Marx had made lives of many people very easy. Okay, Marx used to think there are two classes in the world. मिडिल क्लास कोलैप्स हो जाती है, दो ही रह जाती हैं, तो ये जो रह गई है वर्किंग क्लास, ये तो ओवरथ्रो कर देगी, सिंपल सी बात है लाइफ की, ठीक है. ये ओवरथ्रो कर देगी बुर्जुआजी को, बात खत्म. लेकिन भाई मार्क्स डिड नॉट टेक दिस इनटू अकाउंट दैट वर्किंग क्लास इज नॉट होमोजीनियस, ठीक है. वर्किंग क्लास कंसिस्ट ऑफ मल्टीपल क्लासेस विद इन इट. वन ऑफ देम इज जस्ट गिग, एंड गिग के अंदर भी मल्टीपल क्लासेस हैं जो मैं आपको बताऊंगा. तो व्हेन यू हैव सो मेनी डिफरेंशिएशन इन द लेबर इकोनॉमी और इन द वर्किंग क्लास, हाउ डू यू एक्सपेक्ट देम टू यूनाइट? क्यों एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हो कि जो जो घर पे अपना वो चैनल बनाया है उन्होंने खाना बनाने का, वो यूनाइट करेंगे? उबर वाले के साथ उनका कोई आपस में रिश्ता नहीं. ठीक है. सो पहला तो होता है क्राउड सोर्सिंग वर्क. इट इज ऑल्सो गिग वर्क. इसको गिग वर्क बोलते हैं, क्राउड सोर्सिंग वर्क. ओके. सेकेंड इज ऑन डिमांड वर्क. दीज टू आर द टाइप्स ऑफ गिग वर्क. अब बात करते हैं व्हाट इज क्राउड सोर्सिंग वर्क. क्राउड सोर्सिंग वर्क ये होता है कि आप घर पे रिमोट लोकेशन या कहीं पे भी शिमला से काम कर रहे हो, कहीं से भी आप काम कर रहे हो, उसको बोलते हैं क्राउड सोर्सिंग वर्क. वर्किंग ऑनलाइन फ्रॉम रिमोट लोकेशन. ओके. ऑनलाइन फ्रीलांसिंग इज पार्ट ऑफ द क्राउड सोर्सिंग वर्क ओनली. यानी कि प्लेटफॉर्म्स विच, जैसे कि एक साइट है एस्ट्रो योगी, एक साइट है एस्ट्रो योगी, उनकी कोई मार्केटिंग नहीं कर रहा हूं मैं. astroyogi.com ने क्या किया हुआ है, एक प्लेटफॉर्म बना रखा है. देयर इज वन प्लेटफॉर्म ऐप. ओके. इन दैट ऐप देयर आर मल्टीपल एस्ट्रोलॉजर्स. ओके. एंड वी एज कस्टमर is free or are free to choose any one of the astrologer, because every astrologer has written कि मेरा 1 घंटे का इतना चार्ज है और मैं इन चीजों में स्पेशलाइज्ड हूं. मेरा 1 घंटे का इतना चार्ज है, मैं इन चीजों में स्पेशलाइज्ड हूं. एज अ कस्टमर यू आर फ्री टू ऑप्ट फॉर एनी एस्ट्रोलॉजर. ठीक है. तो इसका मतलब क्या हो रहा है कि प्लेटफॉर्म यानी astroyogi.com एज अ प्लेटफॉर्म हैज कनेक्टेड क्लाइंट्स लाइक अस विद द वर्कर्स लाइक एस्ट्रोलॉजर्स. ठीक है. But workers, यानी astrologers, fix their own rates and conditions with clients. समझ गए? हाँ, जैसे प्रैक्टो में है. अब ये एग्जांपल आप मेरे को ज्यादा देना क्योंकि मेरे को ज्यादा नहीं पता है. ठीक है. तो लेकिन क्या, अच्छा ये बताओ, इन उबर डज उबर ड्राइवर हैव एनी चॉइस टू फिक्स हिज ओन रेट? ना. एस्ट्रो योगी में एस्ट्रोलॉजर हैज चॉइस टू फिक्स हिज ओन रेट. अच्छा, बोथ आर गिग वर्कर्स, बट तो आपको एक होमोजेनिटी नहीं दिखेगी कंडीशंस की, अलग अलग लोग दिख रहे हैं. ओके. बोथ आर गिग वर्कर्स, बट ये पहले वाले जो हैं दे आर ऑनलाइन फ्रीलांसर्स हु आर पार्ट ऑफ क्राउड सोर्सिंग वर्क. ओके. So platforms which connect clients with workers, but workers fix their own rates and conditions with client. That is online freelancing. Second type of crowdsourcing work is micro task work. What is micro task work? Activities like transcription, where work is simple and monotonous. Transcription क्या होता है? आपने लैंग्वेज को कन्वर्ट किया या किसी फिल्म को आपने सबटाइटल्स में कन्वर्ट किया. ये दिस इज कॉल्ड एज ट्रांसक्रिप्शन. इस तरह की जो जॉब होती है. ओके. मतलब you would see many things which you know, like many movies are reviewed on Google. Okay, that is also transcription job. Okay. Or many languages are converted into the other language. That is also transcription job. Okay. So that is micro task work. It is monotonous and simple, but that is also gig work, because you are not relying permanently on this. That is just one of the thing that you are doing. Okay. Third is, you would also see in the crowdsourcing work high skilled workers like IT coders, web designers. So therefore you can't say कि low skilled वाले सिर्फ होते हैं गिग में, वो भी कहना मुश्किल हो जाएगा. ठीक है. ये भी नहीं कह पाओगे कि ऑटोनोमस होते हैं, उबर वाले नहीं हैं, एस्ट्रो वाले हैं. आपको एक मिलेगा नहीं आंसर. हम एक मॉडल बनाएंगे लास्ट में, फिर क्या है गिग वर्क को हम क्या बोलें. ठीक है. So second type of gig work is on demand work. तो on demand work में क्या होता है, you are working offline. यहां पे क्या है, working online from remote location. यहां पे क्या है, you are working offline in person in the given geography. But there you are working online from remote location, not in person. वो तो online in person होएगा नहीं जब online है. ठीक है. तो यहां पे offline चल रहा है, in person in the given geography. Now here, like for example, the people from urban club, AC workers, okay, who have come to your house to fix the AC, who have come to your house to fix cooler, to fix kitchen gas. Okay, Now these people are not working online or remotely. They are coming to your home in person, and the ones who are most nearest available to your home would be allocated to you. Okay. Now they are of two types, low skilled, high skilled, just like we had low and high skilled here. Okay. So in the low skilled of on demand work, delivery work, ड्राइविंग वर्क, हाउस क्लीनिंग वर्क, ये सब क्या है? आपका ऑन डिमांड वर्क है बट लो स्किल्ड. फाइन. देन हाई स्किल्ड वर्क है इन दी ऑन डिमांड वर्क, होम नर्सेस, इलेक्ट्रीशियंस, लॉयर्स, डॉक्टर्स, ये सभी अवेलेबल है. करेक्टो में ही आते हैं क्या ये लॉयर्स और डॉक्टर्स? अच्छा, डॉक्टर्स आते हैं सिर्फ. ठीक है, लॉयर्स का भी कुछ होगा, ऐप कुछ होगा शायद. ठीक है, लॉयर्स का नहीं है अलाउड? नहीं, लॉयर्स का है, मुझे याद आ गया. हाँ याद आ गया, वो बता नहीं सकता यहाँ पे भी. ठीक है, वो केस हुआ था क्योंकि कभी जिंदगी में. ठीक है, सो फाइन. आउटसोर्सिंग वर्क एंड ऑन डिमांड वर्क, these are the two types, and these two are broken into low skilled, high skilled, low skilled, high skilled. That means gig economy is homogeneous? No, consisting of heterogeneous workers. Fine. चलो, ये तो हो गया आपको gig economy clear. तो कल को if you get a question on what is gig work or gig economy, you can easily first define gig work. Okay, that definition is given in the code of social security only by the government. ये गवर्नमेंट की ही डेफिनेशन है. ठीक है, बट इस डेफिनेशन पे वो रुक जाती है, गवर्नमेंट आगे इतना निटी ग्रिटीज में जाती नहीं. ये ईपीडब्ल्यू का आर्टिकल है, उसमें से बताया मैंने. आई विल आल्सो शेयर सम ऑफ द आर्टिकल्स विद यू जहां से मैंने कंटेंट सोर्स किया है. ईपीडब्ल्यू का आर्टिकल है, ये इसी मंथ का है, अगस्त मंथ का. ठीक है, फाइन. लेट अस नाउ टॉक अबाउट, any doubt so far, online students? We have VV Giri Institute under Labor Ministry. Sir, how they are maintaining the security of gig workers? कौन? VV Giri Institute? वो कोई सिक्योरिटी नहीं देखता है, उनका काम तो रिसर्च पब्लिश करना है. मेरा भी एक जो आर्टिकल है उन्होंने ही पब्लिश किया है, मैंने कभी शेयर भी किया था स्टूडेंट के साथ. वीवी गिरी वालों का काम सिर्फ पब्लिश करना है जर्नल्स को, वो काम नहीं करते, वो सिर्फ फाइंडिंग्स को पब्लिश करते हैं. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट आते हैं, हाउ लेबर कोड्स कैन मीट द चैलेंजेस इन द गिग इकोनॉमी. ये मेरे को लगता है क्वेश्चन प्रोबेबल. ओके, जैसे व्हेन नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी, न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी वाज इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज्ड, क्वेश्चन वाज हाउ इट इज गोइंग टू हेल्प एड्रेस द इनइक्वालिटी इन एजुकेशन. तो उसी तरह का क्वेश्चन मुझे लगता है इस बार ऐसा आएगा, हाउ दिस कोड कैन मीट, these codes can meet challenges in the gig economy. Okay, so first let us understand what are the challenges in the gig economy, क्योंकि we have read everything about gig economy. We have read origin, how it got developed, we have read advantages of gig economy, we have also read types of gig workers. Now we will understand what are the challenges in the gig economy. ठीक है, गिग वर्क और इकोनॉमी, क्या चैलेंज है? पहला है प्रिकैराइजेशन ऑफ वर्क. प्रिकैराइजेशन ऑफ वर्क, और इसको प्रिकैरियटाइजेशन भी बोल सकते हैं. ये कॉन्सेप्ट है गाय स्टैंडिंग का. तो गाय स्टैंडिंग हैज coined one concept, precariat class. प्रिकैरिएट क्लास मतलब क्या है कि जैसा आपको मालूम है, हमने अभी तक एडवांटेजेस में वी हैव रेड फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, है ना, एंड डिसएडवांटेज में अभी तक हमने क्या सोचा था, दे डोंट हैव सिक्योरिटी. ओके, डिबेट इज ऑल अबाउट दीज टू ओनली. सो इन डिसएडवांटेज यू विल टॉक अबाउट द अदर साइड. ओके, दैट मीन्स सोशल सिक्योरिटी नहीं है, दैट मीन्स प्रिकैरिएट. प्रिकैरिएट मतलब डेंजरस, प्रिकैरियस कंडीशन मतलब डेंजरस कंडीशंस. ओके, so you are never sure about, you're not never certain about your income. You may only hope to have higher income, but you're never certain. Okay, fine. That means uncertainty in income. So if improved income is the reason for people to join Uber, uncertainty is also one of the reason for them to not join. Okay, सो दैट मीन्स एडवांटेज का ही मिरर साइड आपने देखना है उल्टा। उसी को हम बोलते हैं लैक ऑफ सोशल प्रोटेक्शन भी नहीं है बेसिकली, दे आर नॉट कवर्ड सो फार बाय एनी कोड, हाउएवर दैट कोड इज मेकिंग एन अटेम्प्ट टू कवर देम, बट देखते हैं उसका क्या होता है, वो तो आगे की बात है, बट हमने तो इतना ही लिखना है कि सो फार अभी तक नहीं है। Codes are going to help these things, address these things. Okay. Fourth, difficulty in collective bargaining. We know very well that the people engaged in these services, they don't have any collective bargaining, very strong collective bargaining association. Why? Because you know what happens. The interviews that we also conducted at one point of time among Uber drivers and Swiggy drivers, we came to know that even if they decide to strike or stage a protest against government, okay, some of them would be seen riding the cars parallelly. अगर दोस्तों ने आपस में बोल दिया था कि हम कोई nobody would be driving the car that day, but there are some people who definitely drive, and this actually weakens the whole collective strike. And why do they drive? Because Uber tells them that today you would have maximum return. Okay, this actually creates competition between the same workers who are trying to unite against the state. And when you have competition between workers, so work actually becomes game, जिसके मेंबर्स हो जाते हैं लोग वीडियो गेम वाले की तरह, कि जिस स्कोर किसका ज्यादा बढ़ रहा है, आज ज्यादा स्कोर बन जाएगा, ये वो सब। ओके, तो देयर इज वन स्कॉलर माइकल बोरोवे, ठीक है, तो माइकल बोरोवे सेज that work becomes like a game arrangement where every worker is made to compete against another, okay, only to get higher returns or what we call as scores. ज़्यादा स्कोर किसका है उसका उस हिसाब से बोनस होएगा, because Uber also gives bonus, okay, on certain number of rides completion you get bonus, जैसे वीडियो गेम्स में होता है इतनी स्टेज कंप्लीट करने में बोनस मिलते हैं, ठीक है। So when work becomes like a game, so it is difficult for the workers to unite. Okay, this weakens the collective bargaining. Fourth, the worker has no say on the wage for his services since these are decided in advance by the platform. तो पहले हम ट्रांसपेरेंसी को बोल रहे थे एडवांटेज, अब हम बोल रहे हैं लैक ऑफ चॉइस इन मेकिंग द प्राइस और फिक्सिंग द प्राइस एज डिसएडवांटेज। सही बात है, ठीक है। तो ट्रांसपेरेंसी तो है, बट हमारा स्टेक नहीं है उस ट्रांसपेरेंसी में। दैट मीन्स वी आर नॉट allowed to have higher wage for that trip. Sometimes Uber drivers cancel the ride mainly because they feel that by the time I would reach this person's location, I would have already run the car for the amount which this person is going to give me for the ride that he is going to make. Okay, तो उतना फायदा उसको मिलेगा नहीं। Okay, then next is their formal treatment as entrepreneurs, because as I told you, they are made to they are made to feel as if they are entrepreneurs. Okay, their treatment as entrepreneurs, executives, okay, help the businesses individualize the risk. कि आप तो अपने अपने entrepreneurs हो, executives हो, अपने अपने रिस्क आ रहा है अपना देख लो, ठीक है, आपके ऊपर सब छोड़ दिया। तो this sentiment helps the businesses individualize the risk when the risk has to be sought or fought against collectively through collective bargaining, but वो भी नहीं हो पाती क्योंकि games, bonus वो सब चल रहा है, competition between the workers is also parallelly going on. Fine. Then what happens? Individuals are presented as perceiving the work they perform as investment that would bring returns other than wages in the form of future payoff and the hope for living wage and stable employment. This amounts to self-exploitation by performing hope labor. इसको होप लेबर कहते हैं, ठीक है, कि नहीं अभी गवर्नमेंट काम कर रही है, देखो कल को पेंशन वेंशन तो आएगा हमारे पास, ठीक है। सो दे आर ऑलवेज लिविंग इन, दे आर ट्राइंग टू फाइंड सर्टेनिटी इन द अनसर्टन टाइम्स। ओके, तो इसको होप लेबर कहते हैं। फाइन। Emotional labor they also perform emotional labor because it does not matter how much rides have they completed. What also matters to them is how kind they were to the passengers. Okay, so every rider would ask you to give him 5 star by the completion of trip. ये हम तो नहीं करते यार किसी भी जॉब में, आप जब आईएएस हो या फिर प्रोफेसर हो, हम ये नहीं, स्टूडेंट्स को तो नहीं बोलते हैं कि हमें रेट करो प्लीज, या आईएएस कभी नहीं बोलेगा मासिस को रेट करो हमारी सर्विस डिस्ट्रिक्ट में कैसी थी, ठीक है। बट
नैक में है ये,
किस में है?
नैक,
नैक में? नैक क्या है?
नेशनल एक्रेडिटेशन।
अच्छा, अक्रेडिटेशन उसमें है, उसमें, बट हाँ इंस्टीट्यूशंस की, यस बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। हाँ ये बीच में अब शुरू हो गया है, वैसे सही कह रहे हो, अब ये आने लग गया है, ठीक है धीरे धीरे।
After the semester ends or year ends, there is a feedback form that the
Yes,
students
yes,
have
yes. But at that point of time, you are actually giving feedback for the institution, not for the particular person as well. अच्छा, तो ये आने लग गया है यहाँ पर, यानी ठीक है, चलो हर जगह आ रहा है फिर तो अच्छी बात है, ठीक है। फाइन, इमोशनल लेबर इसी को बोलते हैं, ठीक है। दैट यू हैव टू बी वेरी प्लीजिंग, यू हैव टू बी वेरी एक्सप्रेसिव, एंड यू ऑल्सो हैव टू हैव that's rating, because your rating reflects how efficient you are as a worker. Okay, so efficiency is not reflected only by the number of rights but also by the kindness that you express towards the end user. Okay, next is white collar alienation, इसी को हम emotional labor, white collar alienation, आप जो भी मर्जी यूज कर सकते हो, ठीक है। लिबर्टी वर्सेस प्रिकैरिटी इज ऑलवेज अ डिबेट जिसके अराउंड ही क्वेश्चन बनता है। यू वुड ऑलवेज फाइंड क्वेश्चन अराउंड इंडिविजुअल राइट or social condition. Okay, fine. So देखो लेबर कोड क्या कर रहा है, नेशनल सिक्योरिटी बोर्ड बनाने की बात कर रहा है, ई श्रम पोर्टल बनाने की बात कर रहा है, ठीक है, और जो वर्क प्लेस कंडीशंस हैं उनकी बात कर रहा है। अभी सो फार क्या होता है इन उबर, यू वुड सी देर इज मैकेनिज्म फॉर सेफ्टी ऑफ वुमेन पैसेंजर्स, there is mechanism for safety of any passenger, that if you are riding in the Uber driver, you can have this facility to share your ride with one of your family members, so that family members know where exactly are you going, so you stay safe. And in the Uber drivers you would also find some physical mechanism, a sort of red button like, which if pressed can actually help some officials, higher officials, to know that something is wrong in this ride. Okay, but there is no mechanism for safety or security of workers, that means Uber drivers. So like for example, there have been times you would find when you see their narrative or narrative of the workers, they would always tell you that Uber is never transparent about first of all its payment. We are always uncertain as to when are we going to get the payment, because rides have been completed today but we have not yet gotten payment for the rides which were completed last week. And secondly, if while riding or if while helping the rider क्या कहते हैं reach the location on time, sometimes a driver may क्या कहते हैं fall for an accident. Okay, at that point of time Uber is not going to come to the rescue. Okay, what matters to Uber is efficient, how efficient you were, whether you delivered the rider on time or not. It does not matter कि रास्ते में आपका एक्सीडेंट हो गया बीच में, okay, तो you are inefficient. Okay, and fourthly, in the case of any repair, okay, because if Uber cars are running 18 hours a day, obviously they would require higher maintenance amount as well, but that is not being paid by the Uber. That has been individualized, the risk have been individualized. तो इन सब चीजों के लिए लेबर कोड्स बने हैं कि एनविसाज तो किया है कि भाई हम कलेक्टिव बार्गेनिंग को लेके आएंगे गिग वर्क में, इनका एक ट्रेड यूनियन बनाने की बात करेंगे, ठीक है, और एक श्रम पोर्टल बनाएंगे वेयर एवरीवन इज रजिस्टर्ड, पेंशंस देंगे, इंश्योरेंस देंगे ईएसआईसी के अंदर जो बात कर रहे हैं। हाँ मतलब आप ये समझ सकते हो लेबर कोड्स हैव बीन institutionalized or introduced only to lend some sort of certainty in the uncertain workspace. Okay.
इनकम की बात करेंगे अनसर्टेनिटी की, but at the same time they are talking about autonomy.
Yes.
तो
ये है, ये डाइकोटमी है, बिल्कुल है, बट दैट इज वेरी इंडिविजुअलिस्टिक। कुछ लोग के लिए तो ये सच में बहुत मैटर करता है, फ्लेक्सिबल काम है, बट सम लोग, देयर आर सम पीपल हु एक्चुअली वांट that it is not just flexibility, we also want security of work. Okay, so codes are definitely going to address at least some section. It is not going to let Uber exploit freely anyone, he or she, anyone at its will. Okay, fine. Any doubt, online students, before we proceed further? भाई लव यू, अरे यार ये सब क्या चल रहा है, लव यू कहाँ से आ रहा है? रिसर्चेंस बीइंग आकाश कदम, पैनिक बटन, हाँ पैनिक बटन बोलते हैं उसको, बिल्कुल ठीक है। रीट्राइबलाइजेशन पे आते हैं, ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग कॉन्सेप्ट है, रीट्राइबलाइजेशन। अब देखो इसमें क्या हो रहा है, आपको ये समझना पड़ेगा कि व्हाट इज रीट्राइबलाइजेशन और हम किन की बात करने जा रहे हैं। देखो, व्हेन एम.एन. श्रीनिवास गेव द कॉन्सेप्ट कॉल्ड एज संस्कृताइजेशन, when M.N. Srinivas gave this concept, Sanskritization, he believed that the low caste people and the tribal people, both when they are emulating, or any one of them, if they are emulating the lifestyle or values of the twice born caste groups, okay, that process would be known as Sanskritization, and the product would be known as Sanskritized caste. Okay, but when you talk about people claiming Kshatriya status in history, okay, for example, there have been times when you notice that many people initially claimed Kshatriya status, okay, many people claimed Brahmanical status like Satvana kingdom, ठीक है, or many rulers like Gupta who were Vaishya, they claimed Kshatriya status, okay. So you would find that in history many a times this attempt has been made to claim higher status by the low caste people or the tribal people as well. And among the tribe, Surjit Sinha is one scholar who says who has given this concept of Rajputization of Bhumij tribe. So Bhumij is one tribe in West Bengal, okay, जिसमें वो राजपुताइजेशन की बात कर, that means he's talking about state formation, okay, the state which was, you know, the Rajput state wala concept is visible in among tribes, okay. But today we do not see people claiming higher status. Today we are seeing people going back to their original roots, okay. And when you see people going back to their original roots, original heritage or legacy, this tendency is called as either first re-ethnicization, okay, or ethnics or ethnicization or ethnic assertion, इसको ethnic assertion भी बोलते हैं. Some people also call it desanskritization, okay, that when you are not you know, asking for higher status, now you are going back to either original or the lower status, okay. And some people also call it retribalization, okay. अब मैं आपको बताता हूं ये किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में न्यूज में रहा है और इसको अप्लाई कहां कहां करना है आपको, ठीक है। राजवंशी नाम का एक कम्युनिटी है, ओके, ये न्यूज में रहा है काफी, वेस्ट बंगाल में है, असम में भी है ये। राजवंशी इज वन कम्युनिटी विच क्लेम दैट दे बिलोंग टू किंग्स फैमिली, दैट इज बाय राजवंशी, राजवंश से हैं हम, ओके। In Assam and Bihar, Rajbanshi has OBC status. Okay. In Bengal, they have SC status. In Meghalaya, they have ST status. One community in different regions is having 3 different statuses. ठीक है. Now, if you talk about Bengal only, ठीक है, earlier they were untouchables, okay, and they led a Rajbanshi Kshatriya movement to claim Kshatriya status. So they were untouchables earlier, but through Rajbanshi Kshatriya movement, राजवंश वहीं से आता है नाम, राजा के वंश के हम, ठीक है, through Rajbanshi Kshatriya movement they claimed Kshatriya status, ओके। बट बाद में क्या होता है, Another social movement was initiated by them to get SC status. अब आप ये चीज नोटिस करो, एक कम्युनिटी है, ठीक है, ये पहले क्षत्रिय स्टेटस मांग रही है, बट ये वो टाइम है तब का जब इंडिया आजाद नहीं था, क्योंकि उस टाइम पे व्हाट वाज द सोर्स ऑफ मोबिलिटी? Your caste status was the source of mobility. That is why they were concerned about Kshatriya status. But in modern India, caste status is not the source of mobility. In modern India, what is the source of mobility? Education, wealth, ये सब है source of mobility. Okay. So this was in the pre-independence era, they were asking for Kshatriya status, but in the post-independence era, they got SC status. Kshatriya status is given to them by government of India? No. Kshatriya status कैसे मिलता है? Census के थ्रू उनको मिला. They got this Kshatriya status by census. Okay. And census did not imply official legitimacy. It only reproduced the claim of those people. Okay. But SC status is given by government of India, and it actually also not just reproduce the claim of the claimant, but it also gives legitimacy. Okay, whether the claimant is right or not, वो सब चेक होता है. ऐसा नहीं कि कोई भी SC स्टेटस मांग ले, ST मान लेगा, ऐसा नहीं. ठीक है. Okay, so in the pre-independence era they wanted Kshatriya status because Kshatriya was source of pride, source of wealth, source of power, masculinity, hegemony. ठीक है. Ruling dynasties were largely Kshatriyas, but in the modern India, it is the SC status which is going to give them the same wealth, education and representation in the government to claim higher power, which is going to help them. तो राजवंशी कम्युनिटी अब इस पे चल रही है सेकुलर डिमांड पर. पहले था रिचुअल डिमांड. Okay, so initially they emulated the lifestyle of twice born caste. One of them was Kshatriya, but now they are more interested in lifestyle of the modern society. Okay, not the lifestyle of the erstwhile Kshatriyas. Okay, fine. ये तो हो गया बंगाल में, ये सब बंगाल की बात है. इस पूरी टेंडेंसी को आप क्या बोलोगे? क्षत्रिय से एससी स्टेटस की तरफ जाने को, इसको हम बोलते हैं डीसंस्कृताइजेशन. दिस कॉन्सेप्ट इज गिवन बाय डीएन मजूमदार. ठीक है. डीएन मजूमदार. ठीक है. अब ये तो हो गया बंगाल कवर्ड. ठीक है. अब असम पे आते हैं. ये तो हो गया कवर्ड. असम पे आते हैं. असम और बिहार में ओबीसी स्टेटस है इनका. ठीक है. असम में क्या है, इनको कोच राजवंशी बोलते हैं. कोच, ये सिर्फ राजवंशी नहीं है, अब ये कोच राजवंशी है. ठीक है. कोच राजवंशी इन असम डिमांडिंग एसटी स्टेटस नाउ. ठीक है. तो अ कम्युनिटी इज देयर इन असम, ये कंटेम्प्रेरी डिमांड है इनकी. ओके, दे आर डिमांडिंग, तो ओबीसीज आर डिमांडिंग एसटी स्टेटस. ये मान के चलो, ओबीसीज आर डिमांडिंग एसटी स्टेटस इन असम. ठीक है. अच्छा, दिस डिमांड इज अकम्पनीड बाय सेपरेट स्टेट ऑल्सो ऑफ कामतपुर. उन्होंने नाम भी रखा हुआ है. ठीक है. हमारा एक सेपरेट स्टेट है कामतपुर का, और उसको कामतपुरी लैंग्वेज को भी आप इंक्लूड करो 8th लैंग्वेज में. दैट मीन्स दे आर ट्राइंग टू असर्ट देयर एथनिक आइडेंटिटी. ओके, दे आर ट्राइंग टू claim resources by resorting to their indigenous roots, cultural roots. that we have been the original inhabitants, we have been tribals. Okay, हम लोग tribals रहे हैं. अब क्या हो रहा है, ओबीसी में भी उनको कुछ मिल नहीं रहा है ना. ठीक है, ओबीसी में कंपटीशन बहुत ज्यादा है, तो अब एसटी चाहिए. ठीक है, हम लोग बहुत ट्राइबल्स रहे हैं, हमारा ओरिजिनल वो था हिसाब किताब जिंदगी के अंदर. ठीक है, और उसको प्रूव करने के लिए अपनी मिथ भी बनाते हैं कि हमारा एक कामतपुरी लैंग्वेज भी है. ठीक है, जिसको अलग रिकॉग्निशन मिलनी चाहिए. कामतपुर स्टेट ये होता था हमारा, ट्राइबल्स हम यहाँ रहते थे पहले. ओके, और कामतपुर लिबरेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक प्रेशर ग्रुप भी बनाया इन्होंने, एनोमिक प्रेशर ग्रुप. ओके, विच इज वेरी वायलेंट प्रेशर ग्रुप. So Kamatpur Liberation Organization is a militant body which supports their demand for separate state and inclusion of Kamatpuri language in the 8th. ठीक है, so ये तो इनका वो चल रहा है. ठीक है, a militant body which is fighting for rights of community and separate statehood. Fine. ओके, तो ये हो गया आपका असम भी खत्म. असम के अंदर ओबीसी हैं ये लोग, बट ये डिमांड एसटी कर रहे हैं स्टेटस. प्रेजेंट में ओबीसी हैं, डिमांड कर रहे हैं एसटी. ठीक है, बंगाल का एससी आपको क्लियर है ही, मेघालय का एसटी हमारा अभी कंसर्न नहीं है. हम आते हैं रीट्राइबलाइजेशन के ऊपर. नाउ व्हाट इज रीट्राइबलाइजेशन? ओके, रीट्राइबलाइजेशन क्या होता है? एक हाल फिलहाल में चलने वाला एक फिनोमेना है, अ रीसेंट फिनोमेना विच इमर्ज अमंग सेक्शन ऑफ राजवंशी, स्पेसिफिकली वेस्टर्न असम एंड नॉर्थ बंगाल वाले. ठीक है, अ प्रोसेस ऑफ रीआर्टिकुलेशन ऑफ ट्राइबल आइडेंटिटी अमंग द डी-ट्राइबलाइज्ड कम्युनिटी. जो कम्युनिटी डी-ट्राइबलाइज हो चुकी है, they had already claimed OBC status, that means de-tribalized. Okay, now they are again claiming ST status. Okay, so a phenomena of claiming ST status once again, when you have already claimed higher status OBC, you have already gotten शूद्र, मतलब आप शूद्र बेसिकली इनका देयर रेफरेंस ग्रुप पर शूद्र पेजेंट कास्ट. ओके, यहाँ पे आपको शायद वो पता होगा ट्राइब कास्ट कंटिन्यूम का एक कॉन्सेप्ट. ओके, सो इनिशियली दे वर ट्राइबल्स, बट as Ghuri also tells that some tribals feel or get integrated into the caste fold, some partly integrated, some fully integrated. So they got partly integrated into the Hindu fold, and that is why they found themselves in Shudra position. And being a member of Shudra position and being peasant caste, they got OBC status initially in the post-independence era. But now when they are realizing that they are not able to get maximum fruits out of OBC status, they are claiming again ST status. इसको बोलते हैं retribalization. Got my point? So, a recent phenomena which emerged among section of Rajbanshi, a process of rearticulation of tribal identity among detribalized community based on memories of homeland, heritage, race and name coach. ठीक है, example of ethnic assertion है ये. So they are demanding ST status, यानी tribe caste tribe, not just tribe caste continuum but tribe caste tribe continuum. Okay, back to tribe. ठीक है, for material advantages associated with it. Access to government job is one of the material advantage जो उनको ST के status से मिलेगा, easily शायद मिल जाएगा. Admission at educational institutions, tribal development packages, creation of autonomous councils, ये सबसे important है. This is something which OBC do not enjoy. Only STs enjoy autonomous councils under 5th and 6th schedule. ठीक है, तो ये इनको मिलेगा, autonomy इनको मिलेगी, तो इसलिए they are claiming ST status. Because they have traditionally been Rajput, so they want to claim the same autonomy. ठीक है, और राजपूत बनने के लिए वापस से वो एंजॉय करने के लिए उस प्राइड को वो दे आर आस्किंग ST स्टेटस. ये बड़ा अजीब है, बड़ा अजीब है कि इसलिए ये थोड़ा यूनिक बन जाता है. ठीक है, द फियर ऑफ लूजिंग लैंड, जॉब, पावर, लैंग्वेज एंड आइडेंटिटी encourage them to rediscover their imagined glorious past to bargain with dominant identities. ठीक है, Sanskritization, which had earlier legitimized cultural lifestyle of upper caste, cease to exist with increased secularization of caste and lifestyle. समझ गए? ठीक है? एनी डाउट ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स? आगे बढ़ें फिर. शुंगा ब्राह्मण्स. ठीक है. कास्ट सेंसस, इसको देख लेते हैं. व्हाट आर द चैलेंजेस, ओके, ऑफ कास्ट सेंसस एंड what are the solution to those challenges and what is the opinion of different scholars on these things. okay, सबसे पहला चैलेंज कास्ट सेंसस में ये होता है कि देर आर, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का जो डेटा है लेटेस्ट, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया टेल्स अस दैट इन 1931 4,000 castes were registered. In 1931 census, 4,000 castes were registered in India. But in the 2011 census, जिसका ऑफिशियल डेटा बाहर नहीं आया है, बट ये इनसाइडर रिपोर्ट दे रहे हैं वो, जो कि पब्लिक डोमेन में अवेलेबल है. They are saying, but in the 2011 census, 4 lakh castes have been recorded. ये कैसे हो गया? पॉपुलेशन बढ़ती है, कास्ट कैसे बढ़ती है? ये नहीं समझ आता है. पॉपुलेशन का बढ़ना इज जायज, ये कास्ट की पॉपुलेशन कैसे अलग बढ़ रही है? ये नहीं समझ आया है. तो अब ऐसा इसलिए हुआ है क्योंकि देयर आर लिंग्विस्टिक एंड रीजनल वेरिएशंस. ठीक है, ऐसा होता है कि कास्ट, पहली बात तो हम ही लोग कंफ्यूज रहते हैं वर्ण, जाति और कास्ट में. हम ही खुद कंफ्यूज रहते हैं, वो लोग कैसे नहीं होंगे जो डेटा कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं और जो बोल रहे हैं कि मैं कौन हूं. ठीक है, तो कास्ट इज कंफ्यूज विद जाति एंड जाति इज कंफ्यूज विद सेक्स, रिलीजन, ट्राइब, सेक्ट विद इन रिलीजन, गोत्र, रेस, लीनिएज, सब कास्ट, ये सब जातियां हैं. सेक्स इज ऑल्सो जाति, मर्द जात, औरत जात. ठीक है, रिलीजन इज ऑल्सो जाति, हिंदू जात, मुसलमान जात. ट्राइब इज ऑल्सो जाति, ओराउन जात, गोंड जात. सेक्ट विद इन रिलीजन इज ऑल्सो जाति, शिया जात, सुन्नी जात. ठीक है, वैष्णव जात, शैवाइत जात. ठीक है, गोत्र इज ऑल्सो जात, भार्गव जात, रघुवंशी जात. ठीक है, रेस इज ऑल्सो जात, लीनियज इज ऑल्सो जात, वंश जो होते हैं राजपूत, इसको लोग जात बोलते हैं, ये लीनियज में भी माना जाता है. ठीक है, सब कास्ट इज ऑल्सो जात. ओके, within Teli you would find multiple sort of Telis. Within Brahmin of Shripuram you would find multiple sort of Brahmins, subcastes. Okay, क्या हर एक को अलग अलग काउंट करें? जबकि हमें मालूम है मैरिज कॉन्टेक्स्ट में आती है वो बाहर, कुछ आती है पॉलिटिकल कॉन्टेक्स्ट में. आप चारों को ही काउंट कर रहे हो. इट्स लाइक यू आर काउंटिंग मी एज 4 person. 1 न्यू राजेंद्रनगर, 2 दिल्ली वाला, 3 नॉर्थ इंडिया वाला, 4 इंडियन. अरे मैं चारों एक ही है वो आदमी, तो अलग अलग कॉन्टेक्स्ट में अलग आइडेंटिटी आ रही है, लेकिन हम चारों को रिकॉर्ड कर रहे हो, बोल रहे हो 4 लाख हो गए. ठीक है, बात वो है ना. तो फर्स्ट इज लिंग्विस्टिक एंड रीजनल वेरिएशन. कास्ट इज कंफ्यूज विद जाति एंड जाति इज कंफ्यूज विद सेक्स, रिलीजन, ये वो सब. एंड पीपल यूज देयर क्लैन और गोत्र, सब कास्ट एंड कास्ट नेम्स इंटरचेंजेबली. लोग खुद ही इंटरचेंजेबली यूज करते हैं. ओके, सेकेंड इज इंट्रा हाउस होल्ड वेरिएशन इज देयर. एक घर में you don't find one caste, so you can't record caste of a household, you have to record caste of householders. And when you have caste of householders, you can't say this house has one caste, because every householder has different caste. The question is how they have different caste. You would find different caste in the same household, especially now in the modern times where we have rising inter-caste marriages, inter-regional marriages, inter-religious marriages, and international marriages coming up. When American marries a Dalit girl or a Dalit American or Dalit boy marries American girl, ठीक है, कुछ भी ऐसा मान लो, ठीक है, ऐसे कई लोग भी हैं जो इंडियन एक्सप्रेस में जो आर्टिकल लिखते हैं वो उनकी वाइफ भी है, ठीक है, दलित स्कॉलर्स हैं बट उनकी अपब्रिंगिंग वहाँ की अमेरिकन और उन सब की, ठीक है, उनका हाउस होल्ड क्या होएगा, वो हाउस होल्ड का कास्ट नेम क्या होएगा, कुछ भी नहीं होएगा. Members within such households may not share similar caste. Child of one intercaste couple may marry child of another intercaste couple. तो उनके बच्चों का क्या नाम होएगा, कौन सी कास्ट होगी, ठीक है. आखिर में आपको दिखेगा क्लास नहीं, कास्ट नहीं होती, कॉस्मोपॉलिटन क्लासेस होती है, कॉस्मोपॉलिटन क्लासेस, ठीक है. इन दैट केस वन हाउस होल्ड मे नॉट हैव वन कास्ट. ये एम शाह बोल रहा है, हाउस होल्ड डायमेंशन लेके आ रहा है वो, ठीक है. कॉस्मोपॉलिटन मतलब कि यूनिवर्सली ओपन सबके लिए, नॉट एंडोगेमस ग्रुप, ठीक है. थर्ड इज इनकैपेसिटी ऑफ इन्यूमरेटर्स. इतनी कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी समझने के लिए उनके पास इतना टाइम नहीं है. उनको बोल दिया कि आज इतने घर का मेरे को पता करके लाओ, जातियां कितनी है वहां पे, वो इतना कॉम्प्लेक्स कहां समझ पाएंगे ये सब चीजों को. ओके, स्पेशली इफ द इन्यूमरेटर डज नॉट बिलोंग टू दैट रीजन. ओके, since enumerators are not an investigator or verifier, the affidavit states it would be difficult to meaningfully tabulate and classify caste returns. ये affidavit किसका है, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का affidavit है. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया says it is difficult to meaningfully tabulate and classify caste returns. caste returns मतलब कि recordings जो हैं, what people are saying their caste as. It is difficult to tabulate it because enumerators are not investigators. They may simply record whatever is being told to them without verifying whether it is caste or sex or जाति और क्या है, ठीक है, वो simply record कर लेते हैं, ठीक है. फोर्थ चैलेंज क्या है, caste census can lead to emergence of caste associations, and every time census happens, associations also develop which claim higher status. Okay, that has been the case in India since 1881. One of the caste which claimed higher status was one year from the Tamil Nadu Palli caste. Okay, जिनके ऊपर ही इस साल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने उनको लात मारी है. उनको बोला है कि 10% जो है क्या कहते हैं आपका जो कोटा है उसको हम खत्म कर रहे हैं. You are not most backward. So कोटा, they were enjoying quota. Now they are not enjoying the quota anymore. ठीक है, Supreme Court has nullified reservation of 1 year caste. Okay, so but they claimed initially they claimed Kshatriya status, ठीक है, and in the modern India they claimed backward status. ठीक है, so now can lead to emergence of caste associations. ये something जो मैं आपको explain करने की कोशिश कर रहा था, and this was recorded by Rudolph and Rudolph. How different caste groups form associations, and Robert Hardgrave is also one scholar who argues that Nadar of Tamil Nadu have also claimed higher status, okay, during census. Ghuriye बोलता है head count hardens caste identities. Every time you are counting caste, you are creating caste. ठीक है, head count hardens caste identities and caste enmities also. यानी आप सॉलिडेरिटी तो बन रही है अब एसोसिएशंस के थ्रू व्हेन यू आर काउंटिंग, बट इट इज आल्सो क्रिएटिंग कास्ट एनिमिटी. दैट मींस कंपटीशन और कॉन्फ्लिक्ट और एंटागोनिज्म, फीलिंग ऑफ एंटागोनिज्म within one caste against another caste, and this was visible, quite visible in 1931 census according to Ghuriye. 1931 census में when it was completely revealed that Brahmins have maximum representation in bureaucracy, maximum representation in education, in legislation, तो क्या हुआ, एंटी ब्राह्मण मूवमेंट आई. सो बेसिकली कास्ट सेंसस एक्चुअली disintegrated India. So India witnessed anti-Brahmin movement against representation of Brahmins. This was a unique thing, and Ghuriye did not like it because Ghuriye was also all up for social cohesion or integration, and he found integrated web is getting disconnected, or fissiparous tendencies are developing only because of caste census, which is the unintended consequence or the latent function of the caste census. Okay. Louis Dumo has given a concept caste substantialization for the same thing. Okay, घुरिए के लिए टर्म बोला जाता है caste patriotism, यानी कि आपके अंदर सिंस एसोसिएशन बन गई तो वो एक संघ वाली फीलिंग आ जाती है आपस में, ठीक है, जाट संघ, यादव संघ, ये कास्ट पेट्रियोटिज्म हो रहा है. तो कास्ट पेट्रियोटिज्म एज अ कॉन्सेप्ट वाज कॉइन्ड बाय घुरिए ओनली टू शो दैट अर्लियर our affiliations were towards village. We were village men, but now we have become caste men only because of caste census. Because in the census, what matters is what caste are you from, not what village are you from. Okay, this is the marker of identity. So in तो डुमो इसी चीज को बोलता है substantialization हो गया, यानी कि substance change हो गया है caste का. Earlier it was ritual, now it has become political because associations are claiming higher status and also demanding many things from the state. Since they have numbers, strong solidarity, mobilization capacity. Okay. M.N. Srinivas calls the same tendency as horizontal solidarity. Okay. So M.N. Srinivas said that vertical solidarities are declining with the coming of industrialization and modern education, with the coming of universal legalistic system. But horizontal solidarities at the same time are also getting strengthened. यानी जजमानी सिस्टम खत्म हो रहा है, एक्सप्लॉयटेशन खत्म हो रहा है, एक्सक्लूसिविटी खत्म हो रही है, कास्ट एक स्पेसिफिक काम कर रही है, वो सब खत्म हो रहा है विद द कमिंग ऑफ मॉडर्न ऑक्यूपेशन एंड लीगल सिस्टम. बट हॉरिजॉन्टल सॉलिडारिटी भी अब साथ साथ बढ़ रही है. ठीक है. वीना दास बोलती है कास्ट सेंसस होमोजेनाइजेस द हेट्रोजीनियस आइडेंटिटीज अंडर अम्ब्रेला, मेकिंग इट अ पॉलिटिकल ब्लॉक. तो क्या होता है कास्ट सेंसस, क्या करता है, आप कभी कभी ये भी देखोगे इन्यूमरेटर्स आर मोर इंटरेस्टेड इन आस्किंग क्या कहते हैं वो वेदर यू आर ब्राह्मण, क्षत्रिय, वैश्य, कौन से में हुआ. ठीक है. सो in reality you don't find this neat and clean representation of Brahmin. ये तो वर्ण, these are वर्ण identities. In reality you see only jats, जातियां, multiple जातियां. Okay. And if you see multiple जातिस like क्या कहते हैं अय्यर, अयंगर, माधव, श्री वैष्णवा, and all of them are asked आप हो कौन, and they are made to say Brahmins. Okay. So that means the differences between them are neglected and they are given only one identity as Brahmin. So that means caste census has tendency to homogenize the heterogeneous identities, when in reality they are heterogeneous only because they are activating only in specific contexts. They are not always one singular. Okay. So these are challenges of caste census, and that is why it becomes problematic proposition to have caste census. Okay. Now the question is, should, because there are these challenges, should caste census not be conducted? नहीं, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. caste census को करने के भी अपने कुछ रीजन है, जैसे ना करने के अपने कुछ रीजंस हैं. So what are the reasons for not having caste census or for supporting caste census are pointed out by गोपाल गुरु. इसने आर्टिकल लिखा है लास्ट मंथ ही EPW में. ठीक है, EPW में इनका आर्टिकल है लास्ट मंथ का. एडिटर राइटर्स वाला जो है आर्टिकल, ये वो है कि वाई कास्ट सेंसस शुड बी सपोर्टेड. बहुत सिंपल रखते हैं अपने एक्सप्लेनेशन को. ये बोलते हैं कास्ट सेंसस के थ्रू ही मार्जिनल ग्रुप्स को अपना रिलेटिव डेप्रीवेशन समझ आता है. ओनली थ्रू कास्ट सेंसस marginalized groups would understand or would acquire consciousness of their relative deprivation, and when they come to know that they are deprived in the modern India which has promised us equality of opportunity, then they would definitely pose questions. That means caste census is indirectly introducing democracy among the people who were the victim of undemocratic Indian society. ठीक है. So when they start asking questions, that means democratization हो रहा है उनका. Okay, and this can happen only when they come to know how relative deprived they are in comparison to upper caste. So for democratization of India, caste census is important. बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट है इसका. ठीक है. दूसरा, it will also help masses in approximating their experience to a concrete number. इसका मतलब ये होता है that it will, like for example, it will give Dalits an accurate estimation of 5 crore Dalits we are, who under the caste system have been condemned to live the life of untouchables. So when you come to know that people like you are in 10 crore number or 15 crore, you feel empowered and you feel that you are strong number, okay, for the system. So you can confidently assert yourself and pose demand to the state. Okay, so for them to concretize their experience and to have proper estimation of the people like them, it is important that we conduct caste census. Okay, third, caste census would effectively check efficient delivery of welfare schemes and reservation benefits. Sometimes you, since we know very well that the last caste census that was conducted in India was 1931. उसके बाद से कास्ट सेंसस हुआ ही नहीं है, तो यानी आज तक जो भी लोग रिजर्वेशन का फायदा उठा रहे हैं वो तभी से उठा रहे हैं जब से उनकी 31 में उनकी आइडेंटिटी जो एस्टेब्लिश हुई थी, तब से लेके आज तक में इतने चेंजेस आए हैं. इफ यू डू नॉट अपडेट योर डेटा, you are, or you may end up, basically without updating your data, you may end up doling out welfare benefits to people who may not even require it anymore, and you may even miss out on people who actually require them more than those people who are being given. Okay, तो exclusionary और inclusionary errors हो सकते हैं अगर आप census नहीं करते. ठीक है. And finally, it should be perceived in terms of revealing social ills rather than problem itself, because the people who believe census should not be conducted, they pose census as problematic thesis. But he says कि census should be seen in terms of revealing ills. It should not be seen in terms of creating problem. ठीक है. So you have both the sides. It's up to you. आप कैसे उसको मैनेज करते हो क्वेश्चन के हिसाब से. Fine. Okay, same-sex marriage. This was also in news. Okay. Last year and last to last year ये भी न्यूज में रहा है बहुत. ठीक है. एंड गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने इसी साल मना किया है उनको शादी के लिए साफ साफ. ठीक है. अब सवाल उठता है कि भाई क्या इशू है. गवर्नमेंट शुड हायर सोशियोलॉजिस्ट फॉर सेंसस. हाँ, ये एम शाह बोलता भी है बिल्कुल. आकाश, सोशियोलॉजिस्ट सेंसस के लिए हायर सोशियोलॉजिस्ट को नहीं करेंगे, वो तो इन्यूमरेटर्स रहेंगे. सोशियोलॉजिस्ट सिर्फ इनिटीग्रिटीज बताएंगे उनको. वो भी फील्ड वर्क ज्यादा करते नहीं है सोशियोलॉजिस्ट, वो बस खाली बैठ के बातें करते हैं. ठीक है. वो इतना ही बता देते हैं. अरे यार ये तो लाइव जा रहा है कहीं उल्टा फुल्टा ना जाइए, सबको हटवाऊंगा मैं. नहीं, वो एक्चुअली क्या है कि दे आर द वंस हु आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर हैविंग यू नो जिसे कहते हैं a well planned and rationalized system of calculating the population which is in requirement of the benefits which are anticipated to be given to them, but they are not the ones who are going to go into the field as enumerator to check how many castes are there. Okay, so for that matter, for the former reason, they should definitely be hired. Okay, and they are hired also for the same reason. नीति आयोग में भी होते हैं ये लोग इन्हीं सब चीजों के लिए. आप क्या हाँ बोल रहे हो? दोनों में आते हैं वो. तो सबाल्टन भी है, मार्क्सिस्ट भी है. मतलब आज की डेट में कोई एक स्कॉलर उसमें नहीं रहता कि मैं यही हूँ, मैं वही हूँ. आजकल मेथोडोलॉजिकल प्लूरलिज्म ज्यादा रहता है कि कॉन्टेक्स्ट के हिसाब से वो अपनी पोजीशन बताते हैं. ठीक है. सेम सेक्स मैरिज के चैलेंजेस क्या है? सी, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट व्हेन यू रीड मैरिज एज अ कॉन्सेप्ट इन द टॉपिक ऑफ फैमिली किनशिप, वी ऑलवेज रीड मैरिज लाइक दिस, दैट मैरिज is basically an institution. हम ऐसे पढ़ते हैं an institution, ये हम पढ़ते हैं मर्डर की लैंग्वेज में. ठीक है. मैरिज इज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन which consist of two opposite sexes each engaged in well-defined roles and having sexual relation by consent and social approval and living under कॉमन रेसिडेंस, जिसको आप फैमिली बोलते हो, उसी को मैरिज की तरह आप ऐसे देखो कि वो डिफाइन कर रहे हैं, ठीक है. So marriage is an institution which consists of two opposite sexes, each engaged in well-defined roles, having sexual relation by consent and social approval, and living under common residence. ठीक है. जब आप इस डेफिनेशन से बात करते हो मैरिज के राइट्स की, तो you would come to know कि this definition in itself is very heterosexual. Okay, very heteronormative. Okay, that means this definition has actually given very heteronormative standards of marriage, because marriage is assumed to be an institution consisting of two opposite sexes only. So same sex marriage would be like irony or paradox, वो तो होता ही नहीं, ठीक है. तो क्योंकि मैरिज को डिफाइन ही ऐसे किया जाता है, टू ऑपोजिट सेक्सेस, और इस डेफिनेशन को और इस आइडिया को सपोर्ट करने के लिए वी हैव मल्टीपल, this idea of marriage is supported by multiple religious texts also. Whether you talk of Dharma Shastra, Manusmriti, Bible, Quran, you would see these texts support this kind of institution or this kind of a marriage only. No other marriage is supported by any of the religious texts. So that means the laws on marriage are, shaped by our cultural beliefs and values around the institution of marriage coming from religion itself. Fine. Okay. दूसरा हम ये भी नोटिस करते हैं that in the definition of marriage, not only two opposite sexes are given, but also what is given is that each of the sex is engaged in well-defined role. That means, in the institution of marriage, man is defined as performing a role which is instrumental in nature, and woman is defined as performing a role expressive in nature. Okay. And when you have these two roles being fulfilled by two different individuals, then you have functional family, a family which is very functional to the requirement of industrial society, because industrial society requires efficient workforce, and this can be delivered to the industrial society only when you have nuclear family like this, in which you see one male instrumental, okay, and female engaged in expressive role. Okay, fine. That means marriage as a concept, as a construct, is not only supporting heterosexual standards, but it is also supporting the needs of industrial society. Therefore, treating few classes as productive class and few other classes non-productive. So when you are thinking of family, क्या कहते हैं, catering to the needs of industrial society, what kind of family you have in your head? Heterosexual. So that means you consider heterosexuals as productive and homo as unproductive. So that is also coming out as a norm. मान रहे हो ना? क्या हुआ? अच्छा, इसकी आवाज भी बहुत ज्यादा आ रही है ना ऊपर से, ठीक है. नहीं, क्योंकि देखो जो होमोसेक्सुअल्स हैं, ओके, अब ये यार यूट्यूब लाइव है ना इसलिए, ठीक है, जो heterosexuals हैं, they are seen as productive members, okay, in the sense that man is doing instrumental work, okay, and he knows that he has to live up to that ideal, okay, which is expected of him by his generation, by his parents, and by his family members, and by the society around him. And woman has to live up to that notion also, okay, that I have to be that ideal woman, okay, which can be working woman or as well or a housewife, okay. But when it comes to homosexuals, they don't live up to these ideals, okay, they reject these ideals, okay. So when they reject these ideals, you would not find the idea of masculinity or femininity in lesbians and gays as much as you see these things in man and woman. मतलब ऐसे man and woman है तो वो भी, लेकिन वैसे बोलना ही चाहिए, लेकिन अभी वो क्या है कि वो आधी चीजें मैं इस चक्कर में नहीं बोल पाऊंगा क्योंकि मैं यहाँ पे वो चल रहा है, ठीक है. ये मैं बताऊंगा आपको।
So even Marx का भी concept है जो future labor और future workers है,
हाँ
तो ये भी contradict है क्योंकि मोस्ट और representative है, मतलब they reproduce तो future labor provide करेगा इन capital।
फ्यूचर लेबर प्रोवाइड करेगा, बिल्कुल। वो मार्क्स भी ऐसे ही देखता है, मार्क्सिस्ट भी ऐसे ही देखते हैं फैमिली को कि लेबर प्रोवाइड करते हैं, प्रोडक्टिव लेबर। ओके, एंड वुमेन इज सीन एज reproducing the productive labor. Okay, so you would see that in capitalist society, family is seen as performing very instrumental role of giving out efficient workers to the industrial society. Somehow the family of homosexual cannot be as productive or cannot be as efficient according to these standards. Okay, now ये तो चलो हमने समझ लिया कि भाई ये डेफिनेशनल इश्यूज है, ठीक है, कैसे हम मैरिज को डिफाइन करते हैं, तो उसमें स्कोप बचता नहीं। बट देन हम ये भी बोलेंगे कि दिस आइडिया ऑफ मैरिज, ओके, इज एक्चुअली कॉलोनियल कंस्ट्रक्ट, दैट यू हैव मैरिज बिटवीन टू ऑपोजिट सेक्स ओनली, is very colonial construct because it was Britishers only who actually nullified आपका सेक्शन क्या कहते हैं 377. Okay, they were the ones who introduced section 371, okay, by saying that this kind of क्या कहते हैं sexuality is against the natural order. Okay, homosexuality is against the natural order. Okay, because in India, before Britishers introduced section 377, in India, like for example Khajuraho, okay, or in texts like Mahabharata, or in any or other some epics, and also in the concept of Ardhanareshwar, you would see that the idea of homosexuality or man having avatar of both was seen as very normal thing. Okay, but with the coming of Britishers, this thing was now seen as a disease or something which need to be treated altogether. इनको treatment देना पड़ेगा. तो what was normal with the coming of Britishers had now become something which needs to be treated. Okay, because when Britishers came, they not only came with their ships and East India Company, they also came with modern sciences. And modern sciences actually, specifically psychology and sexology was also one of the discipline which was introduced by them, and sexology was one discipline which was established only to see which of the sexes can be efficient at the workplace and how efficiency can be introduced in different sexes. Okay, and according to sexology, homosexuals were deemed as non-productive members of society only in terms of economic contribution. That is why they were non-productive. Okay, so sexology or science or disciplines created knowledge. So knowledge was never eternal or external to क्या कहते हैं disciplines. These disciplines created this knowledge that homosexuals are abnormal. Okay, so इसको हम बोलते हैं disciplinary power. Okay, fine. So let me now come to the basic idea of challenges. What are the challenges in same-sex marriages? Okay, government's stand क्या है? Decriminalization of section 377 of Indian Penal Code does not automatically translate into fundamental right for same-sex couples to marry. So you may abolish section 377. Okay, but this does not mean कि अब वो they can marry freely. Section 377 का abolition simply means they can have romance. Okay, they can have romance, they can roam around freely, but to marry ये तो चीज ही अलग हो गई, ये अलाउड नहीं किया है हमने, ऐसा गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया बोल रही है. फाइन, तो क्योंकि मैरिज इज ऑल अबाउट 7 जन्म का रिश्ता, एंड इट इज ऑल्सो अबाउट पवित्र बंधन, एंड इट इज ऑल्सो अबाउट सेक्रेड, इट इज वेरी सेक्रेड इंस्टीट्यूशन बोला जाता है मैरिज को, है ना. लेकिन बाहर क्या है, मैरिज इज अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है बाहर, so it is signed by people in a contract, but here it is sacred institution. ठीक है. So same sex marriage is resisted by religious groups in India. Okay, there are some religious groups, not all the religious groups but some religious groups. हमको वो सब ऐसे मेंशन नहीं करना स्पेसिफिकली. ठीक है. होमोफोबिया है, एक heteronormative standards है. Marriage is seen as sacred institution. and sacred, the idea of sacred institution is also very heterosexual. Okay, so that is why this marriage becomes an institution or a resource which is exclusively available to one section. So you would see this institution is hoarded. Okay, hoarded by one group. जो फ्रैंक पार्किन का कॉन्सेप्ट है. So Frank Parkin has given this concept of exclusionary strategy. Okay. Exclusionary social exclusion जिसे हम बोलते हैं. Okay. So here you see Frank Parkin exclusionary social exclusion. Since marriage is seen as sacred institutions by heterosexuals, so heterosexuals hoard marriage as an institution. Making it accessible only to themselves and leading to social exclusion of homos. This is called as exclusionary social closure. समझ गए? जैसे कि ब्राह्मण्स ने एजुकेशन को मोनोपोलाइज कर रखा था, वैसे ही अब हेटेरोसेक्सुअल्स ने पूरे मैरिज को मोनोपोलाइज कर दिया है. ठीक है. कॉलोनियल लेगेसी इज ऑल्सो वन चैलेंज जिससे हम निकले नहीं है. कॉलोनियल हैंगओवर इसको हम बोलते हैं. That we are still living in colonial hangover, we still see them as abnormal or the others. Okay. The colonial legacy had outlawed same-sex relation and we are living in hangover. That is why, and judiciary is doing the same. Although in the UK or in US, marriage of the same sex has been legalized. Now, maybe in the coming times, India may also come up with the same law. Legalization, but that is up to legislature also. Okay. Lack of social approval, fine. Adrian Rich is one scholar जिसका concept है कि modern societies are compulsorily heterosexual or compulsorily heterosexual in nature. Okay. Because compulsorily heterosexual in nature का मतलब क्या होता है? Whether you think of क्या कहते हैं आपका when you go out, okay, you would see toilets for male female. Okay. When you go to school, you would see education system in itself is so designed that you would not see someone lesbian or gay teacher or principal or authority around that institution. You would not see even in the textbook that other than Chunnu and Munnu, third person is there. Okay, so institutions are designed in such a way that heterosexuality, which is a norm of a section, becomes universal norm for everyone. Okay, laws are also designed in such a manner that male and female, to think beyond male and female would be non-feasible. Okay. So is the case with, like, for example, for UPSC also, for a very long time, application form was limited to male female until 2019 when transgender was also given one option. Okay. तो नॉर्म्स अभी तक heterosexual ही चल रहे थे काफी टाइम से. ओके, इसको बोलते हैं कंपल्सरी हेटेरोसेक्सुअल नॉर्म्स. ओके, which drives society. And last is Judith Stacy. She says sexuality is as much about ideology as much it is about biology. ठीक है, सिर्फ बायोलॉजी की बात नहीं, it is also about ideology which governs your sexuality. Okay, fine. तो ये हो गए सेम सेक्स के challenges. So I guess now, any doubt if you have, you can ask. Right, बिल्कुल. But at the same time marriage जो है वो compulsory heterosexual है. बिल्कुल. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? सी, बड़ा अच्छा क्वेश्चन आपने पूछा. हमारा आर्टिकल 21 of the Indian Constitution gives us choice, free choice, that you can choose your partner freely. Okay. But at the same time, our laws do not allow us to marry the partner that we chose freely. Like for example, if I chose a gay person to get married to, because Article 21 allows me to free है partner आपका, ठीक है. If I want to marry that gay person, I cannot marry because state does not allow me to get married. So ये right is important, but social order is given more importance over the individual right, and that social order is heterosexual. कहने की बात वो चल रही है. Fine. So, and then democracy and its health is also one topic. Yeah. हाँ आजकल सोलोगैमी का चल रहा है. सोलोगैमी का चल रहा है. सोलोगैमी समथिंग जिसके लिए अप्रूवल नहीं चाहिए ना. और ये तो मजाक है एक्चुअली. हाँ मजाक सही है कुछ. हम कैसे देखेंगे? हम उसको देखेंगे इंडिविजुअलिज्म की तरह. हमें मालूम है कि every person that you talk of who has spoken at great length on modernity, the last thing that he always talks about and the first thing is always individualism. So now that you see individualism in the institution of marriage also, which by definition requires two opposite sex to get married, now that individualism is present in the institution as well. Okay. And this also reflects one thing very easily, that in the era of feminism, where women have gained autonomy or independence from male, okay, they need not express the expressive role. Okay, they are since autonomous because economically they are empowered equally, so therefore they chose to not choose. ठीक है, इसलिए इसको बोलते हैं सोलोगैमी. फाइन. कैसे अनप्रोडक्टिव? क्यों नहीं? अरे एक ही है और एक ही. अच्छा वो चाइल्ड तो हो जाएगा. और क्या चाइल्ड का क्या है? वो तो मैरिज के बिना ही हो जाता है आजकल. ठीक, उसके लिए थोड़ा ना शादी करेंगे. नेक्स्ट इज डेमोक्रेसी एंड इट्स हेल्थ. ठीक है. इंपॉर्टेंट एट्रीब्यूट्स क्या हैं डेमोक्रेसी के? ये तो बेसिक चीजें जो आप कर ही लोगे, इसमें मेरे को एक्सप्लेन करने की जरूरत नहीं है. रिप्रेजेंटेटिव गवर्नमेंट, फंडामेंटल राइट्स, प्लूरलिज्म, चेक्स ऑन गवर्नमेंट, इम्पार्शियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, पार्टिसिपेटरी एंगेजमेंट, ये सब तो हो गया. लेकिन like this year there were many articles on how democracy is declining or health of democracy is measured, what should be the parameter of ये वो सब करके कुछ बहुत आ रहा था. ठीक है. तो बहुत ही जिसे कहते हैं आप, जो एलिमेंट्री जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग आपको रखनी है अपने एग्जाम के लिए, उसमें आपको बस ये इतना ध्यान रखना है कि अंबेडकर नाम का जो बंदा है, इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन भी आया लास्ट ईयर हालांकि, he discussed that democracy should not be political alone. It is not that just by you have won, okay, by majority, so that means we are in democracy. That is only political democracy. And political democracy, he believed, would always be incomplete without social and economic democracy. And social democracy can be ensured only through welfareism and humanism for the downtrodden or the minorities. Okay. Levitsky and Ziblatt is one person. They are two people who have coined one concept, democratic backsliding. ये क्या होता है कि पहले they are simply arguing कि पहले ये होता था in the pre-Cold War period. In the pre-Cold War period, democracies were questioned or attacked or overthrown by military coup. Okay. तो डेमोक्रेसी पहले वीक होती थी by external reasons. एक्सटर्नल रीजन कुछ भी हो सकता है. वॉर हो सकता है, मिलिट्री कू हो सकता है. मिलिट्री कू मतलब मिलिट्री टेक ओवर करती है, जैसे पाकिस्तान में हो जाता है. ठीक है. दीज आर एक्सटर्नल रीजंस. But in the post Cold War period, democracies are being shattered by the elected government themselves. ठीक है, अब कोई बाहर से मिलिट्री कू नहीं चाहिए, ना ही कोई वॉर चाहिए, अब गवर्नमेंट खुद ही बर्बाद कर रही है डेमोक्रेसी को, ऐसा ये कॉन्सेप्ट बोलता है. ठीक है, इसको बोलते हैं डेमोक्रेटिक बैकस्लाइडिंग. ओके, इन द पोस्ट कोल्ड वॉर पीरियड डेमोक्रेसीज आर बीइंग अटैक्ड और आर बीइंग जिसे कहते हैं सब स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड by the elected government themselves. Okay, जैसे कि imposition of AFSPA or measures like curtailment of internet or press freedom or curtailment on social media. इसको बोलते हैं कि curtailment of democracy और substandardization of democracy by the elected government itself. Okay, इस कॉन्सेप्ट को बोला जाता है डेमोक्रेटिक बैकस्लाइडिंग. ये कॉन्सेप्ट न्यूज में चल रहा था बहुत टाइम से, डेमोक्रेटिक बैकस्लाइडिंग. एंड ये कॉइन किया है, these are two political sociologists, Levitsky and Ziblatt. ओके, अब ये क्या सोल्यूशन देते हैं और किसकी बात करते हैं, क्या ठीक कर सकता है डेमोक्रेसी की हेल्थ को? बिकॉज हमें ये भी मालूम है एक डेमोक्रेसी की समिट भी हुई थी जो बाइडन वाली. ओके, वर्ल्ड ओवर. फैक्टर्स क्या क्या होते हैं, व्हाट आर द फैक्टर्स कॉजिंग बैकस्लाइडिंग ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी एंड हाउ डेमोक्रेसी कैन रिन्यू इटसेल्फ वंस इट बैकस्लाइड्स. रिन्यू कैसे करेगी अपने आप को? फैक्टर्स कॉजिंग बैकस्लाइडिंग इज पॉपुलिज्म एंड मेजॉरिटेरियनिज्म. ओके, cult of individual यानी charisma, something which Ambedkar also warned against, कि भक्ति in ritual or in religion is fine, but in bhakti in politics can be disastrous. Okay, तो यानी cult of individual can also be a reason for backsliding of democracy. Populism, majoritarianism, इसमें आपको एग्जाम्पल देने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. ठीक है, आपने बस इतना ही लिखना है. Westoxification and cultural conservatives, इसका मतलब क्या होता है? When you see rise of conservatives who are against modern values, okay, then also you start seeing how some of the rights of few individuals who are exercising individualism or liberty in the name of modern ideology, how they are being pushed aside because conservatism takes over that individualism. Okay, fourth is polarization, hate speech. Like for example, a lady wants to abort her child in the name of freedom. Okay, body freedom over her body, dignity also. But you would see cultural conservatives, okay, who would be resisting this, that you can't do this. Okay, this is like sin. Okay, something like this. Okay, so that is also causing democratic backsliding. One, individuals are not able to express their freedom. Okay, or they want to go into the temple. Okay, इस तरह के cases जो भी आप देखते हो. Okay, fourth is polarization is also backslides, factor causing backsliding in democracy. Hate speech, misinformation, yani yellow journalism. Okay, so these are the factors which can cause democratic backsliding. And how democracy can renew itself? By citizen engagement. Okay, civil society pressure groups का रोल यहाँ आपको लिखना है. अकाउंटेबिलिटी, आरटीआई, पीआईएल, इन सब की बात आपको करनी है. सोशल इकोनॉमिक इंक्लूजन की बात करनी है, इंडिपेंडेंट प्रेस की बात करनी है, जुडिशरी की बात करनी है. ठीक है, ये रफ आपका. ओके, सो आज के लिए आई गेस यही खत्म कर देते हैं. बट एक लास्ट में आपको एक डिस्कस कर लेता हूं, टाइम बचा हुआ है. डोमिनेंट कम्युनिटीज, फॉरवर्ड और बैकवर्ड. What are the reasons for the claim of backward status by dominant communities? Why some communities which are seen as dominant caste are asking for backward status? Okay, why they're asking for reservation? Pehla, we need to understand there is agrarian distress. Most of the dominant caste are Shudras, that means OBCs. Okay, not all the peasant castes are OBC. Okay, some of them are. Some of them who are not, they are asking for OBC status. Okay, but they are asking for OBC status only because agriculture में अब पैसा बचा नहीं है. Okay, structural transformation of economy, especially declining importance of agriculture and land fragmentation and growth of corporatized agriculture, water shortages, intergenerational subdivision of holdings have produced downward mobility in the agriculture. इसलिए demand for reservation is seen as expression of their desire to shift away from agriculture and towards non-farm occupation. Okay, so reservation is nothing, a window through which they can shift to non-farm occupations. Fine. Then second reason for for their claim to make claim to have backward status is classicization of caste. ठीक है, DL सेट जैसे बोलते हैं. एक ऐसा प्रोसेस है जिसके थ्रू castes have lost their traditional functions and they have acquired new economic interests and political identity, यानी secularization basically जिसको आप कहते हो. Now that they are asking for non-farm occupation clearly shows that they are more interested in mobility, not ritual, but secular. Okay, they are just interested in mobility, not necessarily ritual. This shows कि class character develop हो रहे हैं caste में. Okay, so that is also one reason for them to claim or to get OBC status, so that they could look after their generations through these sources of mobility. They are no longer relying only on that ritual status. Okay. Third is crippled urban economy. Now they are shifting, they want to shift to non-farm occupations. That means they want to shift to urban land. But in the urban land, there is a lot of competition. Already बच्चे इतना compete कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे civil service की तैयारी के लिए. So they want to make their life easier in this competition. Therefore, they are asking for reservation. ठीक है? So that means in the urban economy, if you see, dominant communities turning away from agriculture have very less opportunities to get job in private sector, and thus only option left for them is government jobs. लेकिन general status जो है उनका, it makes the competition tough for them. Therefore, OBC demand. ठीक है? Fourth is relative deprivation. कि भाई जो communities हमसे पीछे होती थी, like SCs, STs, now they are found in bureaucracy. और जो हम लोग होते थे, dominant हमारी pride होती थी और हमारा देखो कुछ भी नहीं है जमीन में, हाथ में, तो अब हमें वो तो दो reservation. तो relative deprivation. ठीक है, they find themselves in status inconsistent position. इसको बोलते हैं status inconsistency. कि ritual hierarchy में they are ऊपर, secular में नीचे हैं एकदम. Status inconsistency, उसको match करने के लिए they are asking for OBC reservation. Okay. Exclusion, inclusion, error, ये सब भी है reason. ठीक है, political support, ये सब. Fine. तो आज और contemporary topics में जितना भी हमने पढ़ा है, all these things I would be uploading on the Telegram group also. ठीक है, आपके पोर्टल पे भी होएगा, वीडियो would be available on YouTube. ठीक है, आप देख लेना जब भी देखना हो. And with this I would conclude class on contemporary session. हमारी अब एक क्लास रहेगी एक विलेज की, ठीक है, विलेज के और सोशल मूवमेंट का, जिसको हम मोस्ट प्रोबेबली कल करेंगे, बट मैं बता दूंगा इनको. ठीक है, टाइमिंग जो भी है. फाइन. तो thank you everyone for joining us here, and before we close the session, let me see if there is any doubt. ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स कोई डाउट अगर आपका है, मैं देख लेता हूँ यहाँ पे. सर व्हाट विल बी द सोशियोलॉजिकल पर्सपेक्टिव ऑन सोलोगैमी? वो ही मैंने बताया शुभम. सोलोगैमी इज नथिंग बट एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ autonomy that women were seeking initially. Okay, that they did not want them to be identified by the male member they have gotten married to. They always wanted to have their own identity. Not just they, everyone wants to have individual identity. You would not want, a male husband would not want him to be क्या कहते हैं, known by his wife. Similarly, wife would not want to be known by her husband in the modern society where you have individualism as the norm, okay, where you have feminism, women empowerment as the norm, okay. Especially I'm talking about urban, educated, elite people. This is not something which is all pervasive. I'm specifically talking about urban, educated, elite people, okay. So sologamy is nothing but expression of the same, okay. Just that so far they were economically independent. Now you would find them independent, not just economically, but in terms of identity as well, okay. That for them to claim their womanhood, they don't need to क्या कहते हैं, be dependent on men, okay. So but that, since problem is sologamy is very very episodic events have occurred in India, and not just episodic, in fact one episode have only happened, okay. So therefore it is too soon for me to say anything or for any person to say anything on sologamy. अभी तो हम सिर्फ अप्लाई करने की कोशिश करेंगे क्या हो रहा होगा, पैटर्न किस तरफ जाएगा, बट क्या ये पैटर्न है भी या फिर ये सिर्फ एक इंसिडेंट है, इस पे भी डिपेंड करता है आगे हम क्या बोलेंगे. क्या पता ये एक लोकल इंसिडेंट हो, ठीक है. सो हाँ बिल्कुल, सोलोगैमी तो किसी भी टाइप की हो सकती है, चाहे मेल हो या फीमेल हो, बिल्कुल जोड़ सकते हैं, बट बिल्कुल. पर वो सब करने के लिए पहले हमारे पास डेटा होना चाहिए इतने लोगों का, हमारे पास कुछ उनकी फाइंडिंग होनी चाहिए कि उनके हिसाब से उन्होंने क्यों किया है, तब ज्यादा अच्छा लगेगा कुछ भी बोलने से. नहीं जरूरी नहीं आइडियोलॉजिकल हो, जो हम देंगे. अच्छा हाँ इंडोलॉजिकल भी हम, हाँ वही फिर इंडोलॉजिकली ही दे रहे होंगे हम, बात सही है. पर उसमें भी बहुत कम केस ही हमारे पास की जिसमें आपको फीमेल जो है सिंगल हुड आपको दिख रहा है. मेल में फिर भी साधु सन्यासी दिखते हैं, फीमेल में गायब है साधु सन्यासी वाला क्लास भी इंडोलॉजी में. उधर भी आपको मुश्किल हो जाएगी देखना. बट यहाँ गुजरात में जो केस हुआ था वो तो लड़की का है. तो यही है कि अभी कुछ कहने से पहले एक पैटर्न एक बार बन जाता है, अगर ऐसा कुछ होता है तब कुछ बोलेंगे. पता नहीं सच में, मेरे को भी पूछना है उनसे, मुझे भी पूछना है कि क्या मिला, ठीक है. और आगे क्या करना है जिंदगी में फिर, मतलब ये करने के बाद. What if same-sex marriage takes place in India? Is it illegal or punishable? नहीं, it is illegal. लीगल नहीं है वो, इलीगल है. हाँ रजिस्टर भी नहीं हो पाएगा. राइट टू मैरिज कम अंडर आर्टिकल 21 एंड रीडिंग विद टू आर्टिकल 14. हाँ ये हमने डिस्कस भी किया. अच्छा ये शायद पुरानी चैट होगी जो मैं अभी पढ़ रहा हूँ. ठीक है. सो ओके देन ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स, बाकी आपके जो भी डाउट होंगे कुछ आप टेलीग्राम पे DM कर देना, ठीक है. सो विद दिस वी कंक्लूड द सेशन. थैंक यू and all the very best for the mains.